All rise. The court of reality is now in session. In the case of humanity versus God, we will now deliver the charges and verdicts as deliberated upon by the jury. On count one of gross negligence in world design, it has created a system whereby tectonic plates shift without warning, viruses mutate endlessly, and half the planet can't drink its own water. The jury returns the verdict of guilty. On count number two, crimes against humanity, including but not limited to bone cancer, congenital defects, allowing suffering before moral agency has formed, infanticide, and choking on food for children because of poor mouth design and throat design, the jury returns a verdict of guilty. On count three of cruel and unusual punishments, eternal consequences for temporary actions under limited knowledge, the jury returns a verdict of guilty. On count four and the final one, abandonment and dereliction of duty, allegedly omnipresent yet consistently absent from verifiable evidence. When clarity is requested, only science is provided. The jury returns a verdict of guilty. Further evidenced by the fact that the defendant did not even show up for the entirety of this trial and sentencing. Prior to sentencing, the defendant counsel would like to remind the court that the defendant works in mysterious ways. Given the verdict and sentencing structure put in place by God itself, the court is left with only one and final unavoidable sentence, which is capital punishment. However, the prosecuting attorney has requested a vacated sentence, as it appears that God is already dead. This case will be dismissed until such time as the defendant, having been located, will be issued a warrant and arrested. If you have any information that could lead to God's arrest, the number to call is 512-991-9242. The lines are open and the show starts now. Welcome in, friends. It's March 15, 2026. I'm your host, Justin. You've probably seen me on the internet as Deconstruction Zone. I'm joined by a good friend of mine who's on the path with me. You know her as Thinker. Welcome back, Thinker.
Thank you, Justin. But today is March 22nd, friend.
You know what? I'm reading the intro script. I can only... I'm blaming Greg. This is...
It's okay. It's okay. We know how our days just start mixing together.
It's true. We're live so often. It's really difficult. People are like, hey, remember that conversation we had like a week ago? I was like, I don't. I've talked to 100 people since then.
Yep.
It just is what it is. Now, Thinker, for those who didn't get to see your prior experience, we'll do some introductions. Thinker is a friend of mine, but a lot of people in the community. In fact, more people in the community probably know Thinker than me in certain areas.
Oh, I definitely.
You've got almost you're getting close to 400,000 followers on TikTok. You've been doing the deconstruction work for years, longer than I have. Tell everybody about your channel and what you do.
Yeah, I deconstruct Christians from Christianity. While I'm on my own deconstruction journey, we study Hebrew. I just finished my fourth semester of Hebrew on Saturday.
Exciting.
Yeah. I love reading the text and finding new things and sharing that with the community. We host Sub-Only Lives where we learn how to read the Bible like a historian and textual criticism and stuff like that. So we have a lot of fun doing it.
It is a lot of fun. You know, that was, for me personally, I think that was the most exciting part about going to school was getting to learn to read the original languages. Mm-hmm. There's a little bit of a window that opens up in the ancient world when you learn the languages. It's really exciting. Yeah. For our purposes, you know, one of the most interesting things for us is you and I are going to get callers where people say, but yes, of course. Oh, I just joined on TikTok. I gotta mute myself. There we go. They're gonna say, yes, of course, like, but the original language doesn't say that. Like, well, first of all, I highly doubt you've studied the original language. Please do tell me about what you think it says.
But then it no longer matters when they realize that you can read the original language. It's not that important anymore.
It never is. And I'm intrigued by the amount of people, though, that like they've bought a Strong's Concordance. And like they've learned, like they've memorized a couple words, and now they think that they're like qualified to tell the guy with the PhD that they translated it incorrectly. Oh my goodness!
Yeah, I absolutely hate that when they do that. There was a guy today who said that the Greek word tutu means faith. And and then when I looked it up, it actually just means for this, from this, or like FUBU, for us, by us. Not really though.
Yeah.
But when I told him what it means, he said, "Well, I wasn't." He said, "I didn't say it means faith. It's the idea. It's the like." He just completely flipped it because he didn't think that we would be able to look it up, know how to look it up. And I asked him, "Well, what lexicon are you using?" He said, "What's a lexicon?"
It's a spiritual interpretation. It spiritually means that.
My goodness, they just say anything.
That's fantastic. All right, friends, I'm gonna do some announcements. And then I think we've got a guest already loaded up. And then please do, as we announce every week, please do call in as early as possible. If you wait till the last half hour of the show to call in, there's a possibility that we're not going to be able to get to you. So if you want to get in and you want to talk about your God concept, whether you're an agnostic or whether you're a firm believer, or whether or not you're deconstructing, or whether or not you're already an atheist, we're more than happy to talk to you. Theists do get the priority in the call queue, but everybody is welcome to call in. You're more than welcome to call in if you have questions for Thinker about the Bible. I'm sure that's a topic that her and I would both love to dig into. And remember that the Atheist Experience is a product of the Atheist Community of Austin, a 501c3 nonprofit organization dedicated to the promotion of atheism, critical thinking, secular humanism, and the separation of religion and government. We are a tri-streaming outfit tonight. I mean, we're streaming in vertical on YouTube and on TikTok, as well as our standard horizontal format. As far as I'm aware, too, we are able to take, I'll just read the whole announcement before I add more to it. Anyways, so a big shout out to our viewers on TikTok and YouTube mobile. If you're watching us on TikTok tonight and you'd like to talk to us, request to join and we'll bring you up on stage. So you can request through the TikTok app itself. Please make sure that you're over the age of 18 before doing so, because as you know, according to TikTok terms of service, you have to be 18 or older, and there is no driving and living. For the love of the non-existence God, please don't be in a car driving when you call in. That is not safe, and we don't want you to be a danger to you or anybody else on the road. And with that, maybe we should bring in Robert, calling all the way from Minnesota. It looks like is an agnostic, and wants to ask why the show hosts, you and I, believe that rationality is a path to God, which is an interesting question. But Robert, welcome in. You're on AXP with Justin and Thinker. Can you maybe add some meat to the question?
Yeah, absolutely. I know the question sounds a little presumptuous, and I don't know either of you two. I'm not super familiar with your work. I was more proposing the question to the show as a whole. The show appears to be somewhat of a rational inquiry, trying to get to the bottom of whether or not God exists, with the show overwhelmingly holding the position that God does not, or there's no good reason to believe that God does exist. My question is that why are we operating under this assumption that one could argue their way into or out of God's existence?
So I think every host might give you a different answer. What I can say for me is I think we're most justified in our beliefs when our beliefs have reasons for them. So, for example, if I said to you that, like, hey, there's some delicious flavored water in this can, like you've got some evidence and some historical background to assume that there probably is something drinkable in here. And if I'm drinking it, it probably does taste okay. At least something like you're justified in believing it at least. But if I said, listen, I've actually got magic juice in here, and if I accidentally spill it on the floor, it'll burn a hole all the way to the other side of the earth. Well, then you'd be like, well, that's stupid, right? I would need evidence for that, right? So I'm saying that God is vaguely similar to that. Like, if you're going to tell me that there's a God, then we need some kind of evidence or even a logical argument that would reduce to God being the conclusion of the argument. But what do you think, Thinker?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I don't know if you're talking about the Christian God or a Muslim God, but the only thing that we have that pertains to God is sacred texts, things that were written down, things that we have to read and consider. So being able to reason with these ideas and use logic is the only way we have, right? Like, I don't, what else would we use?
So I'm not. It seems like you guys are kind of demonstrating what my question is that you're taking God as kind of something of an empirical inquiry, whereas my viewpoint would be that even if God did exist, this would not be a method that God would choose for us to get to know Him. Humans
Do you
are
know what God
very
would choose?
rarely actually. No, I'm saying it's irrational. It would be irrational, essentially, for God to utilize that methodology to get humans
Why?
to know Him. If God wants as many people to know Him as possible, choosing rational inquiry, sound reasoning, sound epistemology, things that the majority of humans do not have access to, have not had access to historically, and in all likelihood will not have access to in the future.
What?
Using that methodology to
People haven't had access to eyeballs?
That's not what I said.
I guess I'm not understanding your argument. We've had access to empiricism forever. We see things, we touch them, we hear them. God could easily use our five senses to give us empirical evidence. Now, I agree that the idea of the scientific method hasn't always been formulated, but like the same methods we're using in the scientific method to make conclusions, we've been doing forever. There's no reason why God couldn't use our five senses to give us evidence that it exists.
I'm curious as
Well, our
to
senses
what you
are-
think a God would use.
I am too, actually.
Yep, I would love to get to that. So I will say that sound reasoning, rationality, the scientific method is not entirely predicated on our senses. We can have a sense of reality that is mistaken. So for the longest time, just looking up at the sky, understanding the stars, the sun, and the other planets, with the limited knowledge that we had, it was reasonable to assume that the Earth was at the center of the solar system. And what I mean by that humans did not have access and currently do not and may never have, the majority of humans may never have access to what it means to have fallacious reasoning, what it means to have a sound epistemology, what it means to have a sound argument, how you construct an argument, and how that argument...
Sure, but are you going to answer a question?
Yeah, I was explaining what I was talking about because it seemed you had a misapprehension of what I was trying to say. That could be my fault for not explaining it properly, so I wanted to explain it properly. I think if God wants us to know Him, whether or not God exists, it would have to be something that all humans experience, no matter what, regardless of their background, regardless of their education, or regardless of what they know. So what is something that is common to all humans throughout history, as far as we can tell, is some sort of feeling of awe, some sort of feeling of what we would now describe as spiritual, and what humans have historically described as spiritual.
Are you about to do the argument from beauty?
No, I'm not making an argument from beauty. The argument from beauty would be a rational argument. I don't think it's a good one, but it would be an argument that attempts rationality. So that's not what I'm going for here. I'm saying a path to God that I would assess as actually reasonable would be something that is common to all humans, regardless of where they come from. So something that is common to all humans isn't actually a feeling that we describe as spiritual. All humans have access to this. Pretty much all humans experience this
I
in
don't.
one form or another. You've never felt...
I don't have access to the spirit, no.
You never experienced beauty, love, awe?
Oh, wait. You just said you weren't going to do the argument from beauty. Now it seems like you are. Oh, no.
I'm not doing the argument. I am not doing the argument from beauty. I am not doing the argument.
So we're not doing the argument from beauty. Okay. What's the argument from awe?
I'm not making a rational argument. I'm stating that if there were something that God wanted us to access into, knowing what we do about humans, it would not be a rational inquiry. That would make no sense from like a God's perspective.
So God's irrational then. He wants you to believe in Him for irrational means then?
That's not what I said. That's not what I said. I'm saying it's outside of rationality.
When you say an argument from awe, like when you say an argument from awe, are you saying like everybody says awe when they see a baby? Like they have a specific feeling when they first see their baby? And that would be God?
That is not what I'm saying at all.
I believe in baby God.
You're being really disingenuous, and like I don't think it's in the spirit of like good faith arguments. So
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out. I'm honestly trying to understand what you mean when you say that feeling of awe, like the universal feeling that every human has, or this universal thing, right? That every human does is breathing. Like, are you saying that God is breathing?
no,
Will be something like that?
no, I don't know if. So let me try and explain it further. I believe that. I'm sorry, I forget your name. What was it again?
It's thinker.
Thinker. So I believe you that you're honestly trying to inquire. Your co-host seems to be acting disingenuous. I do appreciate your honest inquiry. So
Oh,
I'm not saying that.
He's.
Yeah, I mean,
He's actually.
yeah.
He is. He's serious. He's being serious right now.
I'm being quite serious.
All right. I'll take your word for it. So I'm not saying that just experiencing awe, that's God. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that all humans have access to emotional states that are that people have historically described as spiritual. So whether that is beauty, whether that is love, whether that is some states that people experience during meditation, whether that is the experience that people get when they feel as if the world is something greater than just themselves. This kind of ineffable feeling that all humans have.
God is feelings. So if I feel like God doesn't exist, that means God doesn't exist?
That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying because you feel spiritual, that means God exists. That is not what I'm saying. I'm making a categorically different point.
I might be missing the point. Maybe we could put this in syllogistic form.
No, that's
I thinker.
Because even if you say it's emotions, you would still have to use rational thought to get to God. Like if you have a feeling of happiness, right? You would still have to, yeah. Like I don't think that people experience happiness and just immediately think God. No one defines love the same way.
Correct. So I think if you're saying that I felt, the people go into church and they say, I felt God there, right? And if they want to demonstrate that to somebody else, I think a rational inquiry is really the only way that you can defend that. Okay. But I'm not saying that that is the path to God, and I'm not saying that because I felt God there, therefore God was there. I do agree with you that if you want to justify it to somebody else, especially if you want to impact their life, you want to say, I felt God in there. He told me two men can't get married, therefore you can't get married. You absolutely have to justify that rationally. Okay?
Why wouldn't you have to justify it to yourself?
I don't really think you have to necessarily justify, emotions. I don't think
that
emotions
is God.
are. So again, I'm not saying because you feel this emotion, therefore God exists. So I think we are categorically misunderstanding each other. Okay, that is not the argument I'm making. So
Maybe you should clarify the argument.
To be abundantly clear, I'm not saying because people have emotions, because people have spiritual states, therefore God exists. That is not what I'm saying.
What are you saying? What are you saying?
I mean, yeah, that's what we're trying to figure out. You keep saying that we don't, that you're not saying what we're saying. So what is the thing that you are saying?
What I'm saying is that rationality, empirical inquiry, it would not make sense that these would be passed to God, because these are not.
Why?
If God is out there, most people do not have access to sound reasoning. Okay, most people do not have.
You don't need access to sound reasoning.
You absolutely do.
So people who are not sound believe things too. I don't know if you know this. People who have psychotic episodes, people that have unsoundness of mind, also all have beliefs. God, being all powerful, could enter into anyone's life he wants to and give them means for believing. He could give them a spiritual experience. He could give them a feeling. He could give them empirical evidence. It makes no sense that God would need one universal method to talk to everybody using one mean when in
did.
fact everybody has a different way of coming to their conclusions, and it turns out that feelings aren't good. So like premise number one, vibes bro, conclusion God, isn't a great argument.
That's not what I'm saying. I don't know how many times I have to tell you that's not what I'm saying. I really don't. I've said it like half a dozen times already. That is not what I'm saying. Okay. And what I am saying is that the path to God, like imagine you're God for a second. Okay. And humans are the way that they are. Okay. Would you, and the vast majority of humans cannot rationalize their way through an argument to save their lives. The vast majority of humans are going to use fallacious reasoning. They're going to say, I see it, therefore it's like that. I'm going to say, I felt something, therefore it exists. Okay. You would not, I don't think you would be rational from your position to get people to believe in you, to say that, to put something into them that's like, you have to do it this way. That would not make sense.
Hey, do I exist?
If you want people, I'm sorry?
Do you think I exist?
I'm pretty sure you exist, yeah.
You think Thinker exists?
I'm pretty sure she exists, yeah.
Is that through vibes or your eyeballs?
It's not through my eyeballs. I'm not watching the show right now.
Is it through your ears?
Correct.
It sounds like a pretty good method of determining things that exist, huh?
Well, that's not. I don't simply believe that you guys exist because I hear you. That's not.
Okay. Is it through vibes as
you
well?
hear something doesn't mean it.
I'll admit, Thinker's aura is enough to reach through their phone.
Yeah. So again, you seem to be at this point. You seem to be engaging in bad faith. So if you want to continue doing that, I don't need to talk to you. But if you want to engage in good faith, I'd be happy.
All right, I'll turn it over to Thinker. You're in charge, Thinker.
I don't know what he's trying to say. Like, other than like there should be a simpler way for your God a simpler path to your God that should be universal for everyone. But it kind of sounds like you're saying everybody decides what that is on their own.
No.
What exactly are you saying? Because you said, you gave the example of awe, and then you mentioned emotions, and then you say, I'm not saying that you have emotions there for God.
Correct.
Like, what exactly are you saying? If you can, if God is using you, make it simple.
So I didn't say that God was using me right now.
No, I didn't say you did. I said if.
Okay.
I didn't say you did.
My apologies. So again, let's put out an example. Let's say your God, you want as many people to know you as possible. Okay. You have two options. You can either say people have to access me through rational inquiry, or people can access me through their own personal spiritual experience. Which one are you going to choose?
What would I choose? I would choose rational thoughts.
Well, if you want everybody to know you, are you going to use that one?
Yeah, because personal experience, like everybody's personal experience is different. That's what I'm saying. Like, they're doing that now. Everybody's experience is different, right? Who can validate whether it's true or not? And so that person has a personal. Hold on. Let me finish. If you have one person who has a personal experience and they say that was God, right? And so it sounds like what you are saying is all that matters is that that person believes or knows that that experience was God, and they don't have to share it with anybody else. And because this person has their own personal experience. So everybody decides what is God to them, and that's it. That's what you're saying.
So that's not necessarily what I'm saying, but I think I don't think it's completely false. So I think if you were trying, if you wanted as many people to know you as possible, then letting them try to access you with their own rational minds would be a fool's errand, because they're probably not going to get to you. So I personally have not heard a rational argument for God's existence that works. I don't think any of them work.
You did it.
I don't think any of them work.
Even what you are suggesting right now wouldn't work. Like that.
Why not?
One is already happening that way.
That's more proves my point that this is a feeling that is universal to all humans. This is why.
No, not every. I didn't say every human does it. I said it's already happening that way. Believers within specific faith claim personal experiences with these gods.
That's also not what I'm saying. I'm not saying that they experience a sectarian aspect of their God. Like sometimes they do, but like in the absence of, like, for example, in the absence of Christianity in certain cultures, people still do have spiritual experiences where they feel something potentially supernatural happening.
But you're calling it spiritual. They may not be. And what are you defining as supernatural? Because most of the time when people talk about supernatural, you're just talking about natural stuff that you think is beautiful or that you think is interesting. But it's not. There's nothing supernatural about it.
I mean, I listen to music and I feel a certain way. I don't think that's a supernatural experience, but I think that the fact that we have these experiences, like humans are primarily emotional creatures and not primarily rational creatures. So we justify our emotions rationally, and our emotions might be justifiable within that context. So, like,
but what's supernatural about it?
So, I mean, I use that term fairly colloquially. I said an individual who exists outside of, let's say, an Abrahamic faith context may feel something like spiritual that they may attribute to the supernatural. Now, does that necessarily make that supernatural a real empirical thing? Absolutely not. What I'm saying is that given that all humans have access to these feelings and not all humans have access to sound rationality, it would make sense from a perspective of a God who wants everybody to know him, to not go the rational path, to not be known through that way necessarily, because people really suck at rationality. If you haven't like watched the news in the past 4 years, like people.
So the
really
feeling
suck
that
at
everybody
determining
gets,
what's true.
with the
It's a
feeling
more
that
reliable path.
I'm sorry, I'm trying to understand what you're saying, and you're kind of saying a lot, but not getting to the point. And so what I'm trying to understand is, are you saying the feeling that a stadium full of people at a Beyonce concert gets when their favorite song come on, that would be God?
No, I again, that's the 7th time I've said this. No.
You keep turning down everything that I say, yet that's exactly what you said. You said you listen to music and you get this feeling. You did. Hold on. Listen. Will you please listen? Because I'm trying to understand. You literally talk, and you said it's not supernatural, but you called it spiritual.
Sure. Yeah. Spiritual is an adjective. It's not
okay. So are you, when you say spiritual, do you mean God?
No, not necessarily. No.
Why are you talking about spiritual when we're still trying to figure out what you mean by God? Like we're still trying to figure out what you mean by God.
Maybe we should define spiritual. What's spiritual mean?
I'm describing a feeling that people have. So I don't.
But I'm asking, what does it mean?
Okay, have either of you two meditated?
Yes.
Yes, but that doesn't fix the problem. I don't think we agree on the definition of spiritual right now. So what we need to do is actually define the term. What do you mean when you say spiritual?
So I mean the feeling that people get when they feel something that they cannot explain, but it is an overwhelming sense of it, like emotional, like ecstasy or bliss.
So vibes.
Yeah, like
sure.
Being at the Beyonce concert.
Fuck yeah.
Sure. I mean, people go to music festivals and they feel like they feel God there. Sure. Yeah. I mean, that is something that people experience, and it can be through music, it can be through other forms of art, it can be through prayer, it can be through meditation, through fasting. It can be.
Wait, but didn't you just say that is not what you were saying? You just called it God. And when I said that, you said that's not.
No, I didn't.
You did. You said people can go and feel like they feel God.
No, you're misunderstanding. You're simply.
I'm not misunderstanding you. That's what you said.
Yes, you are.
That's absolutely what you said. And I think the problem that we're both going to have here is, like, I agree that we get special feelings when we go to like a really dope concert, or different things like that. But the fact remains, like, I don't care if you call it spiritual or not. There's no connection between that feeling and God. That's the bridge that we need to gap right now.
I never said that is necessarily the case. I never said that you feel spiritual and that is God. I had never said that. I actually explicitly said that that was not the
You
case.
literally just said people go to a concert and feel. You said people go to a concert, get a feeling, and feel God. That's what you said.
That's not what I said. That's not. Rewind the tape. That is not what I said.
That's
I did not
exactly
say
what you
people go
said.
to a concert and feel a feeling.
You said, sure, people can go to a concert and hear their song and get a feeling
and have a
feel
spiritual
God.
experience.
That's not what you
People
said.
can go to a concert. People can go to a concert and have a spiritual experience or an experience that they describe.
And call it God. That's what you said.
That's not what I said.
Yes, you
did not
did.
say that.
You did.
No, I didn't. Like,
Okay.
okay.
We'll try it again. So we'll walk through as far as you're willing to get to, and then we'll ask you to build the bridge. So you're saying that we go to a concert, you look at a sunset, whatever, you get a feeling welling up inside of you. How do we go from we have a feeling to there must be a God?
I have said many times that is not the argument that I'm making.
Well, then you need to make the argument because you've spent 30 minutes without actually giving the argument.
It's because you guys are unable to actually give me the faith to actually listen to what I'm trying to say.
We have been listening to you. We have asked you clarifying questions. And the fact that you are like, I think that you should pay attention to the fact that you called in here and said using logic and rationality is a bad path to God. And you are trying to make this argument for a different path to God, and you're not using logic. And so I think you just showed us that even that your God is either illogical or the claim that you're trying to make won't work either because the God doesn't exist.
Well, first of all, my God I'm an agnostic, so I'm not trying to prove God exists to you. Okay. I never once called into the idea of calling into the show was not like, I'm going to get them with this clever argument for God. My question, if you remember correctly, was that why is this show under the presumption that rationality is the path to God? Because you engage in rational arguments with individuals.
The best tools we have to come to logical conclusions. People generally haven't come to logical conclusions using their emotions. In fact, that's how you get to like religious wars, dancing plagues, all kinds of other nonsense. Emotions aren't a good conduit to truth. They're basically just a conduit to feelings. Like you can have all kinds of feelings. It doesn't tell you anything about God.
This is circular reasoning. You're saying that, well, we have to use logic to like access God because it's logical. It's completely.
No, I'm saying it's the best means that we have. Like the reason why society has advanced is because we've used logical, empirical means to determine what is true with the world around us. We haven't been able to do that with feelings and vibes. Feelings and vibes didn't get you to the moon. It didn't get your cell phone. It didn't get you any of that stuff. Logic and rational thinking did get you all those things.
Agreed. I'm not arguing that.
Give me one other field, like one other like job or field or career that would actually benefit from using feelings rather than logic and reason.
I never said or implied that they would. I have not said that. You guys.
The best means we have for understanding the world around us is empiricism. Until you can provide a better method, that's just what we're stuck with. So to say that God would use a method that, first of all, doesn't actually have a logical connection to its existence, second of all, isn't really meaningful in the way that humans behave, to me, that just tells me that this isn't the method God would use.
So would you agree that people are not very good at being rational?
No, I disagree. I think people have limited knowledge, which is why even rational entities can come to different conclusions because everybody has a different set of knowledge or lack of knowledge. I think overall people are pretty smart, even children. In fact, I worked in youth ministry for many years. I don't find a marginal, like a huge difference between like teenagers, young teenagers and adults. When given the right amount of information, they typically can still use logic and reasoning.
Yeah, but very typically, like humans are not like most of our behaviors are not rational deductions of most things. Like most of them
I didn't
are
say anything about behaviors.
I'm sorry?
I didn't say anything about behavior. Behavior is not dictated merely by your thought process. Behavior is a very complex thing. It's led by your subconscious, it's led by your intuition, which happens also in the subconscious. And your brain has to do some behaviors. Like in order to have the reaction time that we have, your brain has to do some processing in the background for you. Whereas your actual conscious mind is the thing typically doing the reasoning and the logic that you're able to engage in. So like, yeah, I agree. Sometimes we have behaviors that we do because it's like instinctual. I mean, in fact, take for example,
that's how we walk.
Take for example, a cat. Cats can do some really complex thinking. They can plan. They can play tricks on each other. They can play games. They can do some abstract thinking. But also, cats are really interesting in that I've got two cats, and both of them were taken from their mother at a very, very young age. And both of them, anytime they come on something soft and fluffy, will begin to knead it and try to suckle it because there's an instinct in the cat to suckle for survival. It has no idea why it's doing it. It's an instinct. But at the same time, cats are also brilliant. They have good thinking skills elsewhere. So what the behavior of humans and animals is a combination of the brain being conditioned to learn patterns and behaviors that are good for survival. And then it also does rational, logical thinking. It does both of those things. So I agree. Yeah, sometimes we do things that are irrational, not because we're bad at thinking. It's because typically we haven't thought about it yet.
So very typically, how you walk through life is not a rational inquiry. Okay. Now you can justify it rationally. Really?
Maybe yours isn't, which this call might be evidence of that, but mine certainly is.
See, I don't know why you are just so much want to engage in bad faith. Like the fact that you continue to do this tells me that you're not even trying to understand what I'm trying to say. Like,
I don't even think you know what you're trying.
How about you engage like an adult and actually have a conversation?
I'm using the limited information I have in this phone call to make assessments about your argument.
No, you're intentionally trying to be funny to try and be snarky. It's not conducive to a productive conversation. So I'm going to ask you to try and be mature. Okay.
What will be conducive is if you can actually nail down your argument for us, because as it turns out, you haven't done a very good job. I've got a notepad here. In fact, I'll share it on my screen. I'm going to write down the argument. Premise one, as far as I can tell, is God, if it exists, would communicate in a universal method, right?
I think that's fair.
Okay, premise number two is feelings are a universal method, right?
They're a universal experience.
Yeah, we're talking about methods right now, though. A method of communication. Are feelings considered, if you're using feelings as a mode of communication, universal method?
You would utilize, your method would be to utilize something that is universal to humanity.
Yeah, I agree. But what I'm asking is, for premise two, would it be fair to write down that feelings are a universal method of communicating?
Yeah.
Okay. So then your conclusion, which I don't think follows, which is fine, would be that God would, if existing, use feelings as communication, right?
Yeah. I mean,
there we go. Okay.
I don't love the word feelings, but I know what you're getting at, and I'm willing to say that that's fine. Yeah.
Well, what would you prefer using? Is feelings not the right word?
Yeah. No, I mean, I'd say emotional states or, I would say
emotions.
Emotional states. Yeah.
I don't see how that's different from feelings, but whatever.
So we'll say what we've already said.
It is literally bar for bar where we've been. So premise number one, if God exists, would communicate in a universal way. On premise number one, I disagree. I have no reason to believe that God would communicate in a universal way. I think it's impractical, and for a couple reasons. One, because not everybody is in touch with their feelings. And I'm going to give you a really good example that affects a huge portion of our population, and that is super relevant to me and some of my family members, which is autism. People with autism often cannot associate thoughts and feelings properly. They don't know how to read situations. Sometimes they lack situation and feeling awarenesses because, as it turns out, feelings and emotions are very complex. And so just saying that this would be a universal method fails right out of the box. There's a huge segment of the population that don't have the same feelings that you have when experiencing the world. So it's not actually a universal method of communication. My other disagreement is, in fact, that I don't think God would use a universal method. I think he would use the best method that works for each individual person. For the same reason, when you have children, if you've got 5 children, you need to communicate to each of your children slightly differently in a way that gets the job done the most efficiently. Whether or not it's universal is irrelevant. And God's all powerful. He's omniscient. He's got all the omnis. He's not like hampered by having to use one method. He can do a million different methods and it wouldn't even wind him.
So let me just say that initially, first of all, the idea that you're assuming that I'm saying that people who are autistic don't experience emotions, or that their emotional states relative to their situation. Okay, well, that their emotional states relative to their situation are not always congruent. And that's
what I'm saying is
true.
There's a segment of the population where processing emotions is very, very difficult, and it's not like how you or I are doing it.
Well, first of all, you don't know if I'm autistic or not. So second of all,
I don't know if you are, but what I can tell you, having been around and the father to a very severely autistic child, is that emotions play a different role in their life than they're going to play in my life.
Yeah, you're preaching to the choir here, but like, so that is not what again, you're seeming to operate under the presumption that I experience an emotion, therefore God exists. That again is not.
That wasn't premise number one. Didn't make that assumption. Premise number one, I wrote down, which is what we're discussing right now, is what do you think God would do? You're saying God would, if God existed, God would use a universal method of communication. And premise number 2 is you think the universal method would be some emotional experience. Both premises I disagree with. I don't think God is required to use a universal method. And premise 2, I don't think that emotions are a universal method, nor is it a good method. So neither of these premises work. They're not sound.
So in your refutation to the premise, part of your rationalization was that emotions are not always congruent with the context of the situation. You gave the example of somebody who's autistic. Okay. So
didn't say that. What I said is that emotions are processed differently. Not every human being is going to be processing the feeling of awe or the feeling of anything else the same as everybody else. You're going to experience it very much differently than somebody else is going to experience, which means it's not a universal method.
No, so I'm not saying it's a method. Experiencing and reaching God in and of itself in an individual context. I'm not saying that's the method that God uses. It would presumably use.
Hey, Thinker, do you communicate to all of your children identically, or do you have different methods?
I have different methods because they have different needs. But we've already discussed this, and you keep saying that this is not what you're talking about. Like, we addressed this within the first 15 minutes of your call. Like, when some people do not define love the same way, they don't feel the same about their when they have a child. Not everybody feels the same way. Not everybody enjoys looking at nature. Like, people just don't feel the same way about the world around them. Everybody's brain is wired differently. Like, I don't know. I mean, you're saying that that's not what you're saying, but like literally, it is what you're saying.
So would you accept that there are universals across humans?
That what?
That there are universal qualities among humans. Do you believe that?
Like what?
I don't even know if I would agree with that. Give us an example.
So DNA, all humans have DNA, right?
Sure. Mm-hmm.
So that's a universal thing. DNA in itself has limitations, right?
Uh-huh.
Is God DNA? Is God connecting with people through DNA?
That's not what I'm saying. Like, I don't know why you guys insist on being.
That'd be awesome.
Because
if you
we
did,
would
by
like
the
for
way.
you. We would like for you to get to your point.
I'm trying to, and you guys are being snarky. With
You've
my
been
explanation.
trying to for almost an hour.
Okay. If you guys don't want to talk to me, you don't have to. But I don't appreciate this
We would
argument
like
and
to know what
and the bad
we would
faith.
like to know what to talk to you about. Everything. Every time we think that we understand what you're saying, you say that's not what I'm saying, and so we still
Exactly.
don't know what you're saying.
So there are universals, right?
Maybe you
Can we
should
agree on that?
communicate it emotionally.
Okay, this is what I mean. You guys just continue to be snarky.
I mean,
like,
hey,
you are demonstrating you
it
guys
is-
don't care about good faith
At this
arguments.
point, it is
Like,
funny. At
yeah,
this point,
you
it is
can-
funny because like I have been trying. Justin has tried. Justin has pulled up his handy dandy notebook, and you have denied everything that we have said. Like you are literally saying that something that every human has access to, which is either breathing, DNA, emotions.
Wait, hold on a second. Not every human has access to breathing. What are you talking about?
Unless they're dead.
No, that's not true. That's not true. Not every human has access to breathing. Have you never seen somebody that was intubated? They can't breathe on their own. See,
Mechanical breathing is still breathing. So breathing is actually a really complex thing. You think that breathing is just the act of using your diaphragm to expand your lungs, but breathing is also exporting oxygen through the blood, all kinds of things. We agree, though, that yes, you can mechanically breathe, but also with mechanical or natural breathing methods, when you stop breathing, you're dead. So Thinker's point, I think, still stands.
I think he's at this point just being an asshole. Like at this point, you're just being.
I'm doing what you're doing.
For you to focus, stop. No,
you
you're
guys are
not
getting
doing
mad
what
that
I'm doing
what you're doing.
Like because you are being very childish for you to focus on that. Because you don't know your argument.
No, I'm being
You don't know your argument. Are you bored? I think you're bored. I think you're bored.
You guys can be childish. The second that I'm childish, then it's way too much.
I think maybe he's not in touch with his feelings.
I
know a good therapist.
Too much.
Yeah.
This is what I mean. His
name is God.
And I tell you what, he won't even talk back to you.
And he won't charge you. Well, he might charge you sometimes. I don't know.
He might want some tithes and offerings, that's for sure. And every once in a while, like a slaughtering of the innocent. So you're going to get some of that every once in a while.
This is what I mean. This is exactly what I mean. I give you guys one little bit of sass. You get super.
Yeah, okay.
You guys have been giving me sass this entire time. Okay?
Help! I'm being repressed! Bloody!
Okay. Hey, well, listen, Robert, it was a fun time talking to you. I'm going to open the phone line for another guest to get in. And maybe, I don't know, maybe we'll get some logical, less emotional conversations going. Friends, this is a good time to call in, though. He was our first caller, but also now our only caller.
Well, we have
you're more than welcome.
TikTok.
Oh, shit, we do.
Yeah.
I didn't even notice that. I apologize. Well, in that case, let me grab a couple super chats, and we're going to let me see who it is in the guests. It looks like, ADHD Unfiltered. That should be a lot of fun. All right, friends, we're about to get our next guest in here, and we'll keep it rolling. Thank you for the $5 super chat from AG337. Says, the nerds are in the building. Heck yeah, representing. That's what I'm talking about. Let's get some nerds in here, friends. And Steven, thank you for the $10 super chat. This is for Robert. It says, if God existed, God would be the best available method to reach us. Well, he hasn't. So either he doesn't exist or is bad at it. Self-owned. P.S. Thinker is awesome. Hope you come back more. We'll talk more about that towards the end of the live stream, friends. And Gretchen, our good friend, is with us too. Thank you so much for the 311. It says, is rational thought a path to dumping this caller? And yes, that would have been the rational thing to do. And I'll read one more super chat. We'll get our next guest in here from Slow TDI. Thank you for being here again. It says, yaps for 25 minutes. You're not giving me the space to call clarifying questions. Disingenuous. Premise 1, wah. Premise 2, boo-hoo. And conclusion, I never said what I said. That's sounds
That was
invalid, I
it. That
think.
was his whole entire argument.
Okay. Well, in that case, I think it's time to get ADHD unfiltered into the conversation. I just accepted the request, so they should be up in any second now. ADHD, can you hear us?
Looks like they're still loading.
Yeah, they're getting like that loading, like still connecting. Also, while we're waiting, we've got 483 people watching on TikTok right now. Thank you so much for being here. Let's see if we can get over 500. And also, if you're watching on TikTok, you can request up using TikTok. I realize for a long time, AXP was only taking phone calls, but we're in the modern age. We're doing it, friends. So if you're on TikTok, hit the guest request button. You're welcome to get into the conversation. If you're an atheist or a believer or an agnostic, we certainly don't mind talking to anyone. If you've got questions about the Bible or deconstruction, we're definitely game for it. The only warning is we do try to get the believers in first and then take atheist questions after that. But again, the queue's actually empty right now, so you're more than welcome to call in and throw some questions at us. And I think ADHD dropped, which is
they didn't load.
Yeah, which is okay. It happens sometimes on TikTok. Now, Thinker, you've been on TikTok. Is it 4 years now?
Since 2000. Well, doing deconstruction. I've been on TikTok
Mhm.
since 2020. So,
Oh my God,
yeah.
you're the original. You're the original deconstructor on TikTok.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're
Well,
the OG,
I
okay.
started deconstructing on TikTok in 2022.
Okay. Okay, so you weren't doing deconstruction right away. You
No,
moved
I was
into
doing
that.
Black history and like untold history and stuff. Yeah.
That's fun. Okay.
Yeah.
That's really cool stuff. So you were a Christian. Both of us actually were in the faith for some time. How would you, since we're talking about emotions, how would you describe your exodus from Christianity?
I cried, stomped, cussed. It was hard. I had a lot of anxiety. We
Mhm.
had somebody on stage the other day. She's a believer, but she started crying when she realized that it was her God that condoned slavery. She
Mm.
fought really hard against seeing the scriptures for what they were. And she kept saying, but I'm discerning a different thing. I'm discerning something different. And then when she saw that after Jesus died, Paul was saying, slaves, obey your master, she just bust out crying.
Mm.
And I told her, like, I know that feeling. Like, that's how I felt.
Yeah, and I can tell we're the same age because we both are going to say discern, which if you were a Christian in the late 90s, early 2000s, and you were listening to Christian music, that's a clue that you know where we're coming from here. I can think of like 3 albums already where we got discern instead of discern. And I remember the first time I heard it, I was like, oh yeah, that's all right. But speaking of which, I'm curious. So I still think fondly of some of those old albums. And one of the ones I was thinking about recently, because he's an atheist now. One of the singers from the Cross movement. Remember the Cross movement?
The cross movement? Mm.
They were a late 90s hip hop group. They came out, I think, just before the Grits. And he's got a channel now. He went to seminary actually and deconstructed as well and is doing deconstruction content. But there's a lot of us from that time period that were like, we were deep in it. And now,
Yeah.
look at it.
Yeah.
We fell away.
Are you talking about, you're not talking about the crisscross, the cross movement? I'm trying to figure.
Yeah, that's all right. Don't worry about it.
Look, this is how deep I was in it. I don't know a lot of the hip hop music, R&B music, like Brandy, Mariah Carey, and Whitney Houston is probably all I know from that era. We couldn't listen to a lot.
Shout
We had
out
sneak.
to Demon Hunters, maybe?
The what?
Maybe. CC Winans, how about that? That's a classic.
I know, CC. I know CC Winans. Don't tell me I wasn't a Christian now.
We're about to play some CC. All right. Let's get. We got a TikTok guest, Emperor Dino, in here. We'll get him in. I think we've got somebody in the screening room as well. And yes, I saw it in the comments. Shout out to Ichabod, our friend. All right, let's get Emperor in here. Looks like they're connecting. Hopefully they'll be able to connect this time. Welcome in, Emperor. Are you at least 18?
Yeah.
Awesome. And do you believe in God or not?
I'm agnostic. I just have a quick question.
Sure.
So
Or Thinker or myself?
I think that
Or both?
for you. So I think that you're the best person to ask, being that you're an ex-pastor, right?
I mean, I'm an ex-pastor, yeah.
All right. So what pushed you over the line?
Well, I
Or
think,
not
a lot of
believing in
us,
God?
I think a lot of us had different journeys. I can tell you there was like a couple pillars in my experience. It wasn't like one thing, it was like a progression of events. And I think one of the first things I started to notice was that the Bible did have some flaws. My tradition when I became a Christian was like the Bible was perfect, it didn't have any flaws. Now I was lucky in for that experience, and that I also went to Catholic school for 12 years. So when I discovered that the Bible had flaws, I was like, well, the Bible doesn't have to be perfect. We've got church tradition, but it was the first thing that opened the doors to be like, well, maybe I could question it. Maybe there's some things we need to dissect here. And then when I started dissecting them, I found more stuff. I found, not just contradictions, but scientific errors, historical errors, biological errors, rabbits and rock badgers chewing cud, different things like that. And then I was like, okay, well, that's another type of problem for sure. And as I kept going, I started finding really difficult things like we come on the laws of Moses, you get, the treatment of women, slavery, and this obsession with female virginity in the Bible. And it just gives you the ick. You're like, what kind of a God is so concerned about this kind of stuff? It was just a barbaric law code. But I think the thing for me that really was like the end point where I was like, all right, we're done here. Let's pack it up. Was when I was going through Bible college, I got super, super interested in the prophecies about Jesus, because prior to that point, I was like, well, the Bible might have problems. There might be some minute errors here and there. But like, listen, Jesus fulfilled all these prophecies. And I got reading the prophecies and I was like, oh, no, he didn't fulfill anything. Not a single thing. Like if you just look in Matthew and John, most of them show up in Matthew and John, and you read the text where it says, here's what the Old Testament says, just go back to the Old Testament and read it. And you're like, oh, that's not about Jesus at all. And so the method that the New Testament was using to come up with the supposed prophecies for Jesus is nonsense. It's just a ridiculous way of reading the text. And I'm not the first one to notice that. In fact, I was just reading the arguments from Porphyry of Tyre. Porphyry said the same thing. He's like, you've basically just allegorized the Hebrew Bible and the prophets so that you can make it about Jesus. And like, would you do that with Homer's writings? Would you do that with any other writing? What a nonsensical thing to do. And I still agree. I think to me, that's the most damning thing against Christianity, is that the only way to get Jesus as the Messiah is to go into the Hebrew Bible and just do words don't mean words everywhere. I don't know. What was it like for you? What was the sticky points for you, Thinker?
It was doing the same thing, trying to find the historical events and actual history and validate them. And when I started looking into Assyrian records, Egyptian records, the Babylonian Chronicles, and things just wasn't lining up. And I saw that a lot of it was historical fiction. The slavery was a really big one for me, seeing how in ancient Israel, the exact same structures for the slave system in ancient Israel is exactly what was used in the transatlantic slave trade. Looking at the early laws in Virginia and how they used the Bible early on in the transatlantic slave trade, and just just studying it, because when I first started deconstructing, I wasn't trying to deconstruct. I was trying to get closer to the God. I was a missionary, and I was trying to get closer. And as I got serious about studying, it just unfolded, realizing that, like Justin said, realizing that Jesus never fulfilled any of the prophecies. I read a book by Robert J. Miller titled "How Helping Jesus Fulfill Prophecy," and the way Paul stitched those prophecies together, creating like composite prophecies and collapsing the context. He, pulling things from multiple books just to create his argument that Jesus was bringing in the mission was to include the Gentiles all along, and realizing that it was all a lie. And so it just kind of peeled back for me.
Okay, so was there
I think
any?
Emperor's talking, but I can't hear him right now.
Yeah, I can hear him. I see his box lighting up though.
Yeah.
And can you guys hear me?
Did we lose our audio routing?
Can you hear me?
Emperor, are you speaking? Can you comment? The TikTok chat can hear him, but we can't.
Interesting.
Well,
Give us a second, Emperor.
All right, no problem.
Greg, is it making it to the soundboard? Everyone can hear him but us, apparently.
Yeah.
So I got that book, Helping Jesus Fulfill Prophecy, on Kindle. I literally just learned about it not that long ago. So I'm hoping to get that done this summer. I'm pretty excited about it because I don't know if it's a topic that gets talked about enough. And for me, it was like one of the most formative parts of my deconstruction was like, oh my gosh, he didn't fulfill anything.
Yeah.
Because like, isn't that the whole shtick of Christianity, which is like Jesus is the Messiah? And at one point you would ask yourself like, well, what makes him the Messiah? Because like, he has to do something. The Old Testament says the Messiah is coming. Shouldn't we just be able to go in the Old Testament and say, okay, what's the Old Testament say he's going to do?
They don't ever ask that question though, and neither did I. Right? I didn't go to see, if he actually fulfilled the prophecy and why he is the Messiah. Like, where did that prophecy come from, or even understanding that? And when I started researching that, I was like, holy shit! Like, I can't tell you how many times I said "holy shit" while I was like, whoa.
Well, I think we lost Emperor, which is, it happens. Maybe they'll work out the audio routing here, but we do have two other callers in queue. So let's do this. I've got 1, 2, 3. I got 3 super chats in reference to Robert. So before we get too deep into other callers, let me grab those 3 super chats so people don't forget who Robert is, and then we'll get Chidumebi-PA into the guest box. But Gretchen, thank you for the additional super chat, friend. Says Robert, this is 100% a discussion you should be having with breakfast tacos. Indeed, actually, this is a breakfast tacos conversation. He'd be down to discuss your non-arguments all night long, and he would. And he would all night. Like, he will stream all night long and talk to you about this topic. I promise you he will. Tell him Justin and Thinker sent you. And TL Pineapple, great to see you. Thank you so much for the $10 super chat. Says Robert doesn't understand rationalism or empiricism. He keeps mixing them up or equating them. If you think experience, even spiritual, gets to God, you accept empiricism. Bro needs to take philosophy 101. And this is actually a really good point, because like, if you think feelings are a pathway to God, feelings are still empirical. It's happening in the physical world. We can measure people's like brain states and chemical levels to know what they're feeling even. And last super chat for now from our friend Chip. Hey, good to see you, buddy. It says emotions are a universal method of communication. Neurodivergent people would like a word. Yes, indeed. That is the case. That's kind of the point I was trying to make. It's not a great universal method at all, but let's grab in Chidumebi-PA, and we'll get some more conversation rolling. Hone, all the way from Pennsylvania, wants to ask Thinker if she thinks there are unique challenges to leaving religion as a Black person. Well, welcome in, friend. You're on AXP with Justin and Thinker. How are you?
Fine, Justin, and it's Chidumebi. You almost had it this time.
I'm so sorry. Please forgive me.
It's okay. If you ever get me again, just imagine that the do is like as if you're saying it in French. Do, like you know how the French say it. So, yes. So, Miss Thinker, if that's the correct way to address, as I was listening to you, I thought it good. What would you believe that due to how seemingly more close-knit Black American communities are, is it significantly harder to come out as an atheist to them compared to white American community, to general white American communities? I know that there are many subgroups and subgroups, but they do not seem as tight-knit as the Black American communities due to historical reasons. Would you say, am I correct in making that statement?
Yeah, like there is a saying, Black people don't do atheism. It is very difficult to come out as an atheist to your family in the Black community. It's very difficult to come out to the Black community as an atheist.
And why do you think that is compared to white communities? I wanted your experience and thoughts on this matter.
Well, it's because of the story that we've been told that this is the God that helped our ancestors get through slavery, through Jim Crow. And the church has helped with a lot of, civil rights movements and abolishing slavery and things like that. And so we feel like this God owes us, as far as like he's going to bless us for all the struggles that we've been through. And so it's passed down like a family heirloom, and you're expected to participate in it. I don't know if you've like ever gone to a grocery store and a Black person will look at you and say, "God is good," and they expect you to say all the time back.
I know the feeling.
Yeah, it's like a call and response. And so when you as a Black person say, "I don't believe in that," it's automatically the devil has gotten you, or you're church hurt or something like that. And you get ostracized from your family or from your community. And the thing is that like it happens with almost every demographic of people, but with the Black community, there is this. From what I've noticed in the conversations that I have, there is this high level of fear to even doubt the God or speak against the God or blaspheme the God, because we've been taught hellfire and brimstone, don't blaspheme the Holy Spirit, and even just questioning and saying, why would God allow this to happen? Or, even just saying, God is evil, it's seen as demonic. And there's a lot of fear behind doing that.
So that kind of fear can shut down any rational critical thought or critical investigation into such things. And okay, I'm seeing. Sorry, I'm thinking through what you just said.
Yeah, one thing that I've noticed, like I've seen some Black Christians feel more comfortable talking to a atheist that is white. Like they'll talk to Justin all day, but when it comes to me, they won't. Like I don't know what it is. It's scarier to face what looks like you, and that a disbelief of the thing that you're supposed to be believing in, that you're having faith in, is being challenged by someone in your own community. And so I don't know, it's almost like, because we've been told this is our God, they expect it coming from a different community, but it scares them when it's coming from one of us.
Oh, Oh, so okay, and correct me if my metaphor is off. It's like, for example, when you want to tell personal stuff, but you're more comfortable telling it to a stranger than to your own family member. So,
Yeah,
is
so
that
something like that, or this isn't their God anyway, type thing. So they're
ah?
yeah, so they feel comfortable. They expect another community to not believe because they think that this we were tricked out of our God and this is our God and he's going to bless us. They think we're the Israelites in Egypt, 400 years of slavery type thing, right? And so
Yeah, I know that.
yeah. So
Oh no, trust me. There are a lot of people in Nigeria, Southeast Nigeria, the Igbos. There is a vocal community who insist that they are Israeli and that they are actually Jews, which is to explain why they suffered in previous decades and stuff like that. So, that kind of thing.
yeah.
Misery loving
It's-
company and all that, having a justification for all the misery and suffering when it can just literally be the evil that men do to each other.
right. Yeah. And so they feel comfortable having the conversations with other people outside of the community, but not uh not someone within the community. I think it scares them, but yeah.
I hate to ask this because I feel like it might be too probing, but do you feel that you probably get more vitriol being a Black atheist compared to your co-host?
I think being a woman, definitely. I mean, like I said, within the Black community, it scares a lot of Black Christians, but I think being a woman, I get a lot of threats. Just being a woman. But I think I don't know, Justin, do you get threats for being an atheist?
I don't get threats just from being an atheist. Typically, I get threats when I start tweaking the religion. And to be fair, the vast majority of my threats come from Muslims as opposed to Christians, but I still do get some threats from Christians. But I would say this: the bigger my platform grows, the less I get because I think maybe they're afraid of the social ramifications. But when I was first starting out, it was often. I don't know what it was like for you because they don't. I guess they feel like no one's going to hold them accountable.
I don't know. Mine are getting more and more and more, but I think it's because I'm a woman. Like yeah.
And they're intimidated by having a woman of status.
Yeah.
Yep.
And intelligent, like being able to hold her own. They absolutely hate that I can hold my own. And yeah, so.
And we've seen it before in your own live streams where people have come in. They will give you no respect, and then the minute I get on stage and talk to them, all of a sudden they're submissive. Like, now that a white guy's on stage, you want to listen. I'm going to tell you the same stuff Thinker just told you. She was right, dummy.
Exactly.
That's not fair.
Well, that's the world we live in. That's the patriarchy.
I know. It's illogical. It's stupid, but I just. So then I hope Thinker's audience grows to the point where they will have many defenders in their audience and I hope you get that less in the future. The reason why I brought this topic was of my own experiences, and I wanted to know if my experiences were just mine or more shared amongst the Black communities.
Well, we do have a community across social media. Justin Deconstruction is a part of that community as well. So that for people who are deconstructing and feel like that they've been ostracized. So, I mean, check us out. Find us on TikTok. And I do have a community that supports and like they don't play about the community and they protect everybody. In the community, when it comes to those threats, we report everyone and we take every one of those threats seriously. So
I'm happy. I'm very happy to hear that. So I hope you continue to find success. You have answered my question very much to my satisfaction, Ms. Thinker. So I will leave the call. Mr. Justin, did you want to say anything to me before I headed off?
Other than thanks for calling, no, we appreciate your call.
Thank you so much.
Have a wonderful day.
You too.
Best luck, friend.
Best luck.
She's sweet. I think I might have talked to her once before, but she's always very sweet. We do
Yeah, she
have a
sounds sweet.
theist in line. Before I bring in Janet, we're about to bring you in, but I want to finish some of our announcements real quick, and then we're going to bring in Janet. Remember, friends, available on atheist-community.org. I'm sorry, atheist-community.org are printable call-in flyers, meaning you can print off these flyers, hang them on pegboards, put them on coffee shops, heck, put them on people's windshields at church. Post them. Of course, make sure you get permission. Don't be like Christians and barging into people's territories and forcing these upon people. Make sure you're doing it tastefully, but let people know that they can call in and do 1 Peter 3:15 and share their faith with us. And another way to support the stream is by sending super chats. As you already know, we read the super chats between calls, after calls, at the end of the stream. It's a really good way for the audience to get to interact with the hosts and also to share their thoughts on the conversation at hand. Also, it helps support the stream tremendously. The ACA also wants you to know what's going on in the community, and for that, go to atheist-community.org, where you can learn about the organization itself, its policies, and how you can get involved. And if you like what we do, please consider supporting us on Patreon. Our supporters make this show possible. Giving to our Patreon ensures our ability to continue to produce the content that you love. You can see that at tiny.cc/PatreonAXP. Again, it's tiny.cc/PatreonAXP. And also, we want to send a big thank you to the cast and crew who put the show together every week. We've got video operators, audio operators, note takers, call screeners, chat moderators, and volunteers helping to make the show possible. And also, speaking of volunteers, we've got a new member. We're going to call a full-time member in the house, and she's on screen right now. Thinker, welcome to being a full-time host on AXP.
Yay! Thank you so much. I'm excited. I'm happy to join the family. I'm excited. Thank
I'm
you
really
so much.
pumped. It's exciting for me because I've been looking at your work now for 2.5, 3 years. And I feel like this is way overdue, like long overdue.
It was a goal of mine, and I couldn't celebrate more when Greg called and asked me to join the team. I was really excited and couldn't wait to the announcement. I was counting down the days.
I'm looking forward to more opportunities to work with you. And if you want to work with the ACA Friends as a volunteer, we're still looking for volunteers who can be crew members and also be guests on the show. If you can participate, you have anything to offer in terms of time and service or skill set, please email at volunteer@atheist-community.org to get involved. Remember, this is a nonprofit. Nobody's making money here. All of us are volunteering our time for the goal and the mission of the ACA. So please, if you have anything that you can help out with, let us know. And if there's a need for it, I'm sure somebody will get back with you and see if there's a possibility to get you plugged in. Now, with that, I'm going to grab our next caller, which is Janet from Kansas, who wants to talk about their belief and arguments against God, which is interesting. Usually, if they're a theist, they want to talk about the arguments in favor of God. But Janet?
Well, I wouldn't necessarily say against God necessarily, but Justin, I was over on TikTok. That's usually where I've talked to you, but the audio sounded like it was kind of being funny, so I came over here. But we've talked quite a bit when you were doing your lives on Jesus not fulfilling prophecy.
Oh, is this Janet?
It is.
Like circa 2023, Janet?
It's hey y'all, it's Janet. Yes.
Hell yeah. Good to hear from you, Janet. Okay.
Yeah, you too. I've been kind of keeping track of you ever since then. And I've, of course, been watching Thinker as well. I've just, I haven't been brave enough to ever talk to Thinker. I have lurked in her chat over on TikTok. So, but I'm familiar with Thinker as well. But when I was talking to the call screen, oh, go ahead.
Oh, I just wanted to say welcome to the call.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We appreciate the call in. What's in your mind?
Okay, so well, the question was, is it foolish to believe in God? I mean, I really sat there with that and thought about it, and I thought, okay, why do I believe in God? And so, like, one of my reasons that, of course, you can push back on me with is I always go back to this first cause thing, because when I engage in discussion with atheists, I always do the typical Christian thing, which would be, well, it has to have come from somewhere. And then, atheists will usually tell me respectfully, they don't know where it started, because I'm like, well, I've got to have some kind of explanation. That's just how, I've been trained to think. And so it was just, insert God. So I've had the question of, okay, do I throw away my faith, even if it does seem foolish, just because there is no proof? Like, if somebody had, proof and was like, okay, we can prove there's no God because here's how it started, well, I would have to rethink that. But, the only answer that I get is we don't know. And I respect that, because I can't prove that there is a God. So technically, I have to say I don't know as well. But it's hard for me to go, I would throw this all away for there's no proof. So that's kind of my first reason why I don't think it's foolish to believe in God. You can feel free to poke holes in that if you would like. I'm open.
I think Thinker already had something on her mind. Go for it, friend.
Yeah, I just kind of wanted to ask, when we say, is it foolish for you to believe in God? How far are you going with its belief? Like, when you say, oh, it has to come from somewhere, I think for a person just be like, oh, okay, it's God. I think it's foolish to not question or to not accept, scientific evidence, biology, right? And give God as a reason, for humans existing, like the Adam and Eve story. I think that would be foolish, right? But if you're just saying, well, I have...
Yeah.
If you're just saying, I have no idea how the universe got started, and I think that it could be a God, but I don't really know. I'm not saying that necessarily is foolish, but what I would ask then, what is the purpose of that God? Like, just to plug it into the beginning of creation and then you're just done with it after that?
I mean, that's a good question. Because, yeah, I have to ask myself that. What would be the purpose? Because the older that I get and the more that I am outside of my Christian bubble and talking to people, I don't know what the purpose is. Where when I was younger, I thought I knew the purpose, which was just simply go to church, be a decent person, believe in God, go to heaven, live happily ever after. That's just kind of what I thought the purpose was. That as you get, as I've gotten older and as I have been exposed to a lot more stuff, it doesn't really, it doesn't seem to be a purpose. I don't know what the purpose is. So I'm kind of in that stage of
Is it possible that there's not one?
Yeah. I mean, that has to be one of the options.
Can I ask you a question? What would be... So it seems like there's two sticky points with you. One was the first cause, and one is things had to come from somewhere. What would be a good reason to think that there was a first moment as opposed to the universe existing forever? Because I've never seen any good reason or evidence to believe that the universe once didn't exist. And if the universe always existed, then basically it kind of... it solves a lot of problems when it comes to religion, because theoretically, if we're saying God is the thing that makes the impossible stuff possible, well, now we don't really have anything impossible that we need a God for. The universe has just always existed. Is there a good reason to believe that it didn't at one point?
Well, I don't really know. That gets so deep. Like I don't really know. I mean, when I look at this, and I've talked to some other people, about evolution and oh, it took millions of years. I was raised a creationist, so it's like everything just happened in the last 6,000 years. When you start talking about it always existing, that gets like so huge that my brain can't even hardly wrap itself around that, because we live in this finite time, and in the grand scheme of things, that's almost overwhelmingly scary. Like,
Yeah. Well, think about this for a second. You do believe that there's like a God that has just always existed, and there's no good explanation for where the God came from, right? So
right?
where the universe came from versus where the God came from is basically the same problem. So that question kind of goes to the wayside. So the next question is, well, if the universe is always existed versus a God always existed, which of these two theories do we have more evidence for? I think we got more evidence for the universe existing forever. I think the conservation of mass and energy would point in that direction. We've got particles, a handful of them that are essentially eternal, like electrons. And it stands to reason, even from philosophy, like a really basic syllogism would be, you can't get something from nothing. There is something, therefore there was never nothing. And it just seems to make the most sense that the universe has just always existed. Now, in the God world, I think in order to say that there was a God that always existed, the first step is to find the evidence that the God exists at all before we say that the God always existed,
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. And that's one thing that my daughter and I watched a video the other day, and we were, looking at all the evidence, and she was trying to explain to me what's that, carbon dating? Is that it? I don't even know if that's
Yeah.
what it's called. Anyway, she was trying to explain that to me, because I was like, how do we even know that this goes back? But I mean, yeah, it seems to go back millions of years. Okay, I'm not very scientific. I'm more people-minded, but I'm really trying to grasp onto this thing that it seems to have been going on for a really long time.
Yeah, right. And so
Yeah.
one of the things that we can do is we can do, different various methods of dating, and we can say, well, it looks like the universe has been here for a very, very long time. Here's how far back we can look, and then we kind of reach some limitations between like how far we can observe versus what reality
Right.
actually is. But
Right.
it's certainly plausible. Mhm.
No, go ahead. I'm listening.
So it's certainly plausible that like what we call the observable universe is a tiny speck in the overall universe. These are questions that we are kind of still outstanding, but I would ask one interesting question, which is, let's imagine for a second that there was a God. What would be the motivation in creating any of this?
Well, what I was taught to believe growing up was, and this is what they told me, God created us because he needed someone to love him. Did you hear that when you were growing up, or when you were in church? Did anybody ever say it to you in that way?
Yeah.
Yeah, they still say it today.
That's what they said. Yeah, so that's what they said. Like, God did all this because he needed someone to love him. Well, that kind of doesn't really make sense to me. I don't know. Does God really? I don't know. But
If he
that's what I've
loves
always
us, how
been
come he
taught.
doesn't communicate with us?
See, that's the thing, man. There is like, and I'm still in church. Okay, I'm in church every week, and it's really heartbreaking to hear all the things that are going on in the world, and to sit at the table with people week after week and see the just complete devastation in them when they can't figure out. They're trying to figure out, what does God want me to do? Why is this happening to me? It's almost like a torture. It's a kind of psychological and spiritual torture. that I see every week that people are trying to figure this out. And then I wrestle with, why would he make that so difficult? I mean, if I have to go through something hard, it would at least be nice to have some kind of indication of why and the purpose of it. But I just see people just really just, I can't even, it just breaks my heart. And it makes me really frustrated. Like, you're exactly right. Why make it so hard for people to just even hear something? I mean, I experienced that myself, having epilepsy and being like, why would he put me through this? You know, what did I do wrong? You know, will you just, you know, help me or this or that? So that's a really good point too. Like, why would he put us through that?
I agree, and I would use like an interesting example, even if you want to use like a minimalist approach, like, well, God can't make it too obvious. He needs to like search for him. But like when I learned to swim, you know, I was like 4 or 5 years old. My mother was a lifeguard, and I remember when she was teaching me to swim longer distances. I remember the first time I swam, like we were on like this beach from the shore to like this dock in the middle of the lake. Like, I thought I was gonna drown. I was like, "Oh, what's happening here? Why did mom think I could do this?" Right? But I still knew that, hey, my mother's a lifeguard. She's back there behind me. If my head goes underwater, she's gonna come and get me. Like, I still had a baseline of trust, even though I knew she was pushing me to my limit, right? But with God, we don't even have the baseline. Like, there's nothing there. So there's not really a good reason to believe that, like, hey, when things get tough, he'll come to the rescue, because he never does.
I
Hey,
mean,
Justin, when you were a pastor, did you ever use that story as a way to say that God was always there, even though you thought that you were going to drown?
You know what? I never did, but all pastors will tell stories about how when you were in your depths of despair, finally you experienced something to give you a brief bit of hope. But you know, typically it's you like convincing yourself. You know.
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, and
Go ahead, Janet.
oh no, go ahead. I'll listen.
No, I was just going to go back to the whole God created humans because he needed someone to love. And that coming from the Christian church is very ironic, considering in the beginning of the story, he creates Adam because he needs a slave, because he needs a worker in the garden. And it doesn't say anything about love. He never even mentions love. He doesn't tell Adam that he loves him one time in that story. He doesn't even care that Adam chose death. Like, he's more mad that his labor is no good anymore, right? Like, they go from being these foolish, unlearned, and like confidently foolish, right? It says they were naked and not ashamed. Like, so they go from lacking wisdom and being confident in this ignorant state to gaining knowledge, right? To gaining wisdom, to gaining a moral conscience that no longer depends on him, and they're no longer valuable, right? They can no longer be in his house. He kicks them out, and then he takes their life source away. So I mean, I don't understand how they see love in that.
I don't either. I don't either. Like, whenever they've used that, you know, oh, God just needed someone to love him. I've never actually found that in scripture when I've read. So it's not like that's just something I was told and I just took on, you know. But as an adult, I'm like, what? Cite that source. I have never actually seen that in there. So I don't know where that came from. And the other thing that I was told was, well, people that don't believe in God are going to think you're foolish. Because it does say in the Bible that the wisdom is God is foolishness to everybody else, right? So, like, you're kind of trained to accept that believing in God is going to make you look foolish. So for most of us, I think if we would admit it, we're okay with looking foolish because
Mhm.
It does say that in scripture several times, right? So the looking foolish part is not something that we really look at necessarily as a bad thing. It's almost something that you wear as a badge of honor in some cases, and they'll use it against atheists, and kind of put them down. So that's actually something that, oh, well, people are going to think you're foolish. And so you kind of really, or I at least, didn't really use my rational mind a lot because I was just prepared to be looked at as foolish. And it wasn't until I really started thinking about some of these things where you're like, wait a minute, should I just accept that or should I actually look into this?
Right,
But
because if somebody came to your door and said, you should believe in Islam, you already believe in God, you should believe in
mhm,
Islam. And like, well, I don't know. I've read the Quran. It says some silly things in there, kind of some, and they would say, well, the ways of God are foolish. The world, you have to
mhm,
accept it anyways.
mhm.
Like we wouldn't apply that to any other religion. So if we wouldn't apply it
No.
anywhere else, I'm not sure why we'd be compelled to apply it to Christianity.
Well, we wouldn't apply it to, I mean, I know, Justin, like you do engineering or stuff. We certainly wouldn't apply it to that world. I mean, there's just general things where just to be foolish and accept something, we would not accept that in the real world. Like we would want to think it through. And then there's the whole thing of, I think the last few years for me has been really detrimental to Christianity as a whole, just because of what's going on in the country. Because I grew up here in the middle of the country, really conservative, and I'm watching all these people that I grew up with who taught me the song, red and yellow, black and white, they are precious in His sight. I'm watching all those people who told me all these Bible stories about what's it called? Not the prodigal son. Oh, the good neighbor, the good Samaritan.
Hmm. Yeah,
I'm watching all those people turn on everybody who is not
yeah.
like them, who is an immigrant, who is poor, who does not have health care, who does not have enough food. I'm watching all those people who taught me those principles as a child do the exact opposite.
You
Right.
know why,
And follow
right?
somebody and hold somebody up that's doing the exact opposite. No, I mean, well, I'd like to hear why you think, because I mean, I have
There
my
are no
opinions,
red or
but what's
yellow
your
people. So they're not saying red.
well, that's you're
There
right
are
about
no
that.
red and yellow people. Like, so they're not thinking about the people in the song that they sung. They're seeing
Well,
you know, Latinos, they're seeing Asian people, right? Like they're not seeing the red and
yeah,
yellow. Like, and then like this is what I'm saying, that the things that we
you're
did
right.
not question growing
Mm-hmm,
up, like singing that
mm-hmm.
song, like that is we were singing whole ass slurs, calling people
I
red and yellow.
know, I know,
You know?
True.
Yeah.
Were. You're right. We really were. And I have seen that now, and I see it in things people still say. And they want me to, it, no.
Yeah.
So
Well, listen,
that's been
Janet,
really
we've got about
disillusioning.
oh, sorry, we got about 20 minutes left in the show, and we've got two more callers to get through.
Great.
So I think
Alrighty.
we're gonna push forward. But thanks for calling in, Janet. You're always a delight to talk to, and I know that the deconstruction process is a long journey, but you do know you're not alone. There are people even
Yeah.
in the atheist community that are here for you and care about you, whether or not you
Yeah.
ever become an atheist. And I think that's important to recognize is, I think the goal of a lot of these discussions isn't to force everyone to become atheists, but it's to help people think rationally about their belief systems
Right.
so that they can come to conclusions that are rational.
Yeah. And Justin, I appreciate that. And you're always great to talk to. So I really appreciate the talk, you guys.
You're so
Absolutely. Good
welcome.
to hear from your
I
friend.
hope
Have a great
you get
one.
over your fear and come up on my
Okay.
stage and talk to me.
Okay, thanks, Thinker. Bye.
You're welcome. Have a good one.
Cheers, friend.
Bye.
Janet. So sweet. So one of our callers just dropped now that I'm looking at it. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take our last caller, another Robert. Wow. And then we'll read through the super chats. Thinker, I don't know if I asked you earlier. Can you see all the super chats as well on the announcement document?
Yeah, I can. I forgot
Okay.
they were there. Yeah.
No problem. When we go through the super chats, we'll alternate then and go back and forth and reading them, interacting with the guests. But I'm going to bring in Robert, calling from Hungary, so way overseas. Is a theist and wants to talk about their conversion to Catholicism. Well, you're on AXP with Thinker and Justin. Robert, how are you?
Hi, Justin. Hi, Thinker.
Hello.
I wanted to call in and talk about my conversion because I was raised as an atheist, basically, by my father. And recently, a year ago, I turned to Christianity and Catholic and started go to church and taking it seriously.
Sure. Well, let me ask you a question. Why? Why would you do that?
Yeah, I lost hope in humans and the world, basically. Like, I saw this hate that the previous caller mentioned, how conservatives and so-called Christian nationalists were turning to hatred of the other. And I started looking, where is hope left in the world? Where is love for your fellow brothers? Is still the most important thing. And I saw that the Catholic Church is still promoting loving the neighbor, loving the stranger, the immigrant, not turning them away. And that's what I found.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, sure.
Why Catholicism as opposed to Buddhism?
I studied Buddhism in university. I studied Eastern culture and Japan. And I wasn't convinced that the rejection of worldly living and the teachings of every teaching of the Buddha was capable of living a worldly life, basically.
Okay, so you found some teachings that you seem to either not like or disagree with, and I think that's fine if you see something in the teachings that you're like, hey, that's questionable. So with that, I think Thinker and I might have a couple questions about the teachings within Catholicism. Let's talk a little bit about like the moral code of Christianity. So, first of all, you're Catholic, so you may or may not believe in purgatory. Which do you believe in? Do you believe in purgatory?
I think purgatory is not like a place. According to Catholic teachings, it's a process you go through after death where you're cleansed of sin that you may not have confessed or were not forgiven for. So that's a process that you go through before you enter into heaven and afterlife and a full realization of your holiness as a human being.
Right. Fair enough. Okay, so you have a pretty traditional view of purgatory. It's not for atheists. It's typically for believers that are unrepentant, stuff like that. So, question I would have is, I don't see how we can get this New Testament teaching about the afterlife without concluding that the teachings of Christianity is heinous, because there are millions and millions and millions of people that will end up in hell because they don't believe in Jesus. There's no sufficient evidence for it. And whether or not you like the teachings of Jesus, I think is irrelevant, because like that alone isn't really evidence. I actually don't like the teaching of Jesus. I think he promoted the laws of Moses, which are pretty barbaric and misogynistic. But for the crime of not believing in this God, and in fact speaking out against the crimes of this God, like I would go to hell. And you don't think, like, why should I go to hell and not you?
I don't think you necessarily will go to hell, and I don't think that's the teaching of the church. I think that's what I used to believe, and probably that's the teaching of many Christians, especially fundamental evangelists. But the Catholic Church teaches that even if you're not a Christian, if you're not baptized, you could still go to heaven if you live a moral and virtuous life. Maybe teaches that it's less likely because many people believe and do immoral things without the church, without following Jesus and his example of love and acceptance and charity and self-sacrifice. But I don't think that you will have to go to hell.
Well, according to Christian doctrine, I can't go to purgatory. Purgatory is for the saved, but who have unrepented sins. So they're in a state of grace and assurance, but they have to be purged of their sins. Now, if you don't believe in Jesus, if you reject Jesus, and you reject the church, what that means is you're not in a state of grace. And those are the people who would end up going to hell, which was me, right? So based on Catholic teaching, that's what they would tell me. Who do you think is going to hell?
People whose sins cannot be aligned with God's will. People like murderers, criminals, pedophiles, people like that.
The thief on the cross went to paradise?
Yes, because they repented.
Okay. So they are forgivable. It's just that if you don't ask for forgiveness. Okay, so let's imagine that if I live an identical life to that thief on the cross that was next to Jesus, but I never admit that Jesus is Savior and I reject Jesus. In the Catholic doctrine, I would go to hell and the thief on the cross would go to heaven, right?
There is no absolute knowledge about who goes to hell and who goes to heaven. Only that those people who do confess their sins will reach heaven. But we don't make judgments on every criminal that God will not forgive him. If a thief like those on the cross, on his deathbed, he confesses that he did wrong, and not necessarily that he accepts Jesus as a Catholic, but that he made a crime that he should repent for. I think that's a valuable teaching to.
Right, but I'm asking about people who don't do that. Right? If I don't
people who did evil things,
where do I go?
If people who did evil things and never repent, never see the error of their ways, I think they go to what is called hell, but is not an eternal torture, just a lack of God and lack of oneness with God.
Well, that's not what the Bible says. The Bible says that there's suffering, torment, wailing, and gnashing of teeth there, and that they'll be tortured in the hellfire. In Revelation 20, it literally, or Revelation 14 as well, literally talks about torture in the lake of fire.
Yeah, Revelation is not a very exact book. It's more of an allegories and images, very confused images that are.
But every passage about hell includes torture and hellfire. Like there's not a single passage about hell virtually that doesn't mention the fire or mention the torture. It's just, if words have meanings, then we can only assume that hell is a place of fire and torture. And also God's omnipresent. You can't be out of God's presence. So that's what's happening. People in hell are having a bad time, very, very bad time, and they're doing it either forever or until the period of annihilation, right?
No, I don't believe that's true. I don't think that's the Catholic teaching. Like there is a very specific Catholic teaching that there is no eternal torture. There's just a lack of God. And yes, there is images in, as you said, Revelations, but Revelations.
You're a new Catholic, huh?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I was never officially Catholic. I went to 12 years of Catholic school, and I can assure you that Catholics do believe that there is, in fact, fire and hell. It's in the Catechism. You'll find it in CCC 1035, where souls go for suffering and punishment in eternal fire. So in the Catechism, 1035 says, immediately after death, the souls of those who die in a state of mortal sin descend into hell, for they suffer the punishments of hell, eternal fire. The chief punishment of hell is eternal separation from God. So it's hell and suffering and go together, and fire, according to the Catholic doctrine.
Yes, but the chief punishment there is the separation from God.
Oh, don't care. Not relevant. We're asking, will you be tortured in fire there? Yes or no?
No.
So you don't believe in the Catholic Church's teachings then?
I don't think that's the correct understanding of the teachings. No.
Catechism just said it verbatim. They will suffer the punishments of hell, eternal fire.
Yes, but what's eternal fire? What's eternal fire if you don't have a body?
The Bible tells you. Now, listen, just because you and I both know that hell doesn't make sense if you go to the soul or go soul only to hell, that's irrelevant. I get that the Bible is not scientifically accurate. That's why in the Quran it says that your skin grows back in hell repeatedly so that you always feel the suffering of the flames. That's kind of irrelevant. The Bible is not interested in explaining how you can even feel pain in hell. It just says that you can feel pain in hell. Nevertheless, my point is very simple here, and I don't want to drag this out and have to teach you every doctrine about hell to get to the end point because we don't have enough time for that. But the reality is, Jesus, if I get to go to heaven, having been completely unrepentant, having still been a sinner, that means Jesus died for nothing. It's a waste. It's a nonsensical situation. It's a farce. God didn't have to murder his son for any reason if people like me can just go to heaven. That's the whole shtick of Christianity is he killed his son so that you can repent and save yourself from the fires of hell.
Well, I don't think it's really murder if your son goes willingly to die. For the sake of
listen,
humanity.
No one's questioning whether it was murder or killing. I don't care what you call it.
Well,
Nobody had to die.
I think he did. He did have to die.
Why? Why did Jesus have to die?
I know this talking point, and I used to believe it, but I come to the understanding that not just because God wanted him to die or ordered it to be so, but because to set an example to humanity that the highest being, the creator of the universe, were willing to send his son to forgive sin for every man who will ever...
No, why does he have to do that, though? Buddy, you're missing the plot. Why does he have to forgive anyone's sin if I can go to heaven?
Yes. It's not because he has to do that to forgive sin, because he had to do that because of us, so that we may come to him.
Robert, you keep contradicting yourself, and I want you to see it. Yes or no, did Jesus have to die? Is it a necessity? Did it have to happen?
For humanity to retain freedom and free will, as God intended, yes, he did.
Okay, so Jesus had to die, but free will has nothing to do with this. Adam and Eve had free will. I have free will. Everyone has free will, theoretically, in your worldview, with or without Jesus dying. Like, did nobody have free will until Jesus died?
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that you're trying to make it so that because God is omnipotent, then there is nothing that he cannot do. So why did Jesus have to die? But the problem is not whether God is capable of forgiving everyone's sin, but whether humans are capable of being forgiven for their sins. And
okay, you're losing, Robert, you're losing the plot. We're trying to keep this linear. I asked, why did Jesus have to die? And you said, so that we can have free will. I don't see the connection. Why does Jesus have to die for us to have free will?
Because that way, humans can understand that true sacrifice will lead to love for one another.
I don't think that's the case. I don't think Jesus dying teaches me anything about love. I think it teaches that you can forgo your responsibilities and let other people pay for your own sins. I don't think that's helpful at all. And I certainly don't think anyone being murdered on my behalf is good.
I used to hear that all the time, and I would just accept it. But that's not really the Christian teaching, that other people pay for your sins. Like
Jesus did.
But he didn't. He's not another people. He's God.
He's a person. He's literally three persons in one.
What was the point of him becoming human? Like if he's God, if it's your God that died for your sins, why did he become human?
God became fully human while being fully God. So we can know that he did that for us. So that we
I
can
mean,
know
you
that
could have known that he
lived.
did it for you as a God. He didn't have to become human. Like he could
How
have
could we
died
know
for you
that
as I
without
don't even
him?
see how y'all think he died while he was God inside of a human body, because if he's
Yeah.
God and he's eternal, eternal things can't die. Like it doesn't make any sense that y'all, if you're saying he was fully God and fully human, then he couldn't die anyway. Like, so that makes
Well,
absolutely no sense.
his body
But what
died.
I don't understand is why he had to become human to die.
He had to become human so he would experience life as we do.
For what?
You-
You know, he didn't experience life the way you do. First off, you start off as a deficit. You start off a sinner. You start off unclean, and you are only human. He starts off not able to sin with this protective force around him. Right? He's eternal.
Yes.
Y'all aren't the same. He didn't
But
live
just
your
like-
experience.
Well, he felt pain, he felt sadness, he
So
felt hunger.
so
That
that
that's what
has
being
nothing to
human.
do with sin. That has absolutely nothing to do with sin.
No, that's
We are talking
what-
about we are talking about sin. We're not talking
Mm-hmm.
about him feeling pain and hunger. We're
So
talking
you're
about
asking
him
why did
being
he
able
have
to, we're talking about morality. We're talking about sin and obeying your God. He came here with the inability to sin.
Yes, but
So he's not you and you're not him. Like you start off as in a deficit.
yes.
You start off in the ground. He did it.
Oh, I have a sinful nature. He didn't.
Right.
But
Exactly.
he-
So y'all ain't the same. If you are able to pull yourself, like if you believe that you are created or born in sin, and you are able to pull yourself out of that mindset or that state, you're better than your God. Because he can't do that. He's never had to do that. He doesn't start
Well-
off in a deficit.
Just because different doesn't mean I'm better than him.
He can't do what you do. He has never had to go from being unclean to clean. He's never had to actually really figure out how to love your neighbor. Like he came here with, like he could not sin.
Yeah, but I don't see how that denies that he was fully human, or that
No, he
him
can't even be tempted
materializing-
if he was God. Thinker's making a really good point here. Like you're trying to say that Jesus was like us and he experienced these things, but he didn't experience any of this stuff. He's according to you, he's all knowing. He's a God. He can't suffer. He can't be harmed. He knows
couldn't
the
he suffer?
future.
Wait. Why couldn't
because
he
he's
suffer?
because God can't suffer.
Like, do you realize
Why-
that
He's all
he
powerful.
bounced
That
on
he-
the cross?
Wait, what?
He left.
Why?
He left on the cross. He left before they even stabbed him, before they even pierced him in his side. He didn't even experience
did-
that. He bounced.
Why did Justin say that he can't suffer? That he can't feel pain? He can't feel
He
sadness?
left. He didn't even stay when they pierced him in the side.
What does that have to do with suffering and pain?
What suffering did he experience?
Getting nailed to a cross?
And then leaving right after?
Yes. Is that pain?
Do
not
you know?
part of
Good,
Do
that
I
you
do
know?
that.
Do you right? Do you know that there are people like who have been hung on trees, who have had to be hang there all damn day?
They do it yearly in the Philippines.
Nobody says that he experienced the most painful process.
Oh,
anyone
exactly.
ever
So
did.
my point is, he has not experienced what humans experience. What is the point of him being human? If he is 100% God and human, his God qualities negate his human qualities. He
They have to.
cannot experience the human experience.
Well,
And everything
are
that
you
you have
saying-
overcome, you have done something that Jesus can't do.
Yeah.
Well, he
I mean,
didn't do.
Thinker's point is,
I mean,
is
you're really
good here. And I want
jumping
you
the
to just take it. Well, just take a second to think about what she's saying. Like according to the hypostatic union, Jesus was 100% God and 100% man, right? So what that means is unless he got rid of his godness when he came to earth, which he didn't, that's modalism, it's a heresy. Unless he got rid of his godness, that means he could not have suffered in any of the ways that you and I suffer because his godness is always going to somehow overrule the humanity.
Before I answer, I just have to make the chat that I'm a liberal and I hate Orban.
Who? Viktor Orban?
Yes.
All right, don't worry about the chat. We're not worried about that.
So no, I have to disagree. And you really jump the gun when you say that he couldn't have suffered. He felt pain, and just because he could have ended it at any moment doesn't neglect that. Just because humans experience more pain and more suffering than he did through his crucifixion doesn't neglect that. And I think a religion that's central message.
Hold on, you suffer because of sin, correct?
Yes.
He can't sin. He can't experience sin. There's no way in hell he could suffer.
Yeah, but you're just saying that he doesn't experience the full scale of human experience.
He can't if he cannot sin.
I agree.
If he's protected from sin, he cannot suffer.
I agree, but no. Why can't he suffer?
Because
that doesn't follow.
You all suffer because of sin, according to your own theology. You suffer because of suffering is a result of sin. Hold on. Suffering is a result of sin.
Yes, but not the necessity of it.
It's the result of it. It's the result of sin. You suffer because you sin. If Jesus is protected from sin, he cannot suffer. Like, how do you think somebody suffers who can just magically turn 2 pieces of fish into feeding 5,000 people? Where's the suffering in that? He had magical powers.
Yeah, but just because you have magical powers and you can end it anytime you want, that doesn't mean that you cannot experience pain or sadness.
We're not talking about him experiencing pain. And again, he was nailed to the bulk of your Jesus's pain is he had a crown of thorns on his head. He got nailed to a cross for a little second, and they gave his ass some vinegar to drink.
He was lashed.
Okay, he got his ass whooped, and he did that. Pontius Pilate did that before he had to carry his own cross, and then somebody else had to carry his cross for him. That is the bulk of what he went through on that cross, and then before. When they didn't even break his legs, then they went to pierce his side, and he was already gone. While he was alive as a human, how did he suffer as a human? What did he go through that you went through or that you go through as a human?
Okay, so firstly, I reject your summarization of crucifixion as like a tolerable thing, like a minor mode of execution that Romans used to torture and human.
If you're a god, it is.
Is it for you? Would it be for you?
No,
I mean,
would it?
That's what
I think
your
you're
book
missing
said.
the point.
Yeah, you want me to give it more reference?
Yes
and I'm just quoting the facts.
No.
Well, listen, if Thinker and I were scourged and we were crucified, it would be a big deal for us because we're not God. We're not omniscient. We don't know we're coming back in a day and a half. We don't know any of this stuff. We don't know that we're all powerful. We don't know the past, present, and future. If you're a God and you know past, present, and future, and you know for a fact that you're going to have an uncomfortable weekend and then boom, you're going to be God again, it's really not that big of a deal. It's just a blip in the eternal radar. That's nothing for a god. For humans, it's a big deal. We get to live for maybe 75 years. And so having your life cut down at age 33 through this means would be awful for us because we're not gods. It's not awful if you're God.
Yes, I get it. If you're omniscient and you know that at the end you will take your place next to God on a golden throne in heaven, it's not the same thing. But you're starting to become intellectually dishonest when you describe the crucifixion as an inconvenient weekend.
It's an inconvenient
really
weekend in comparison to God's ability to suffer is my point. And Thinker is right on here. Listen, there's no good reason to think that what Jesus went through is somehow interesting. Did you not read history? Do you not know what actual human beings have gone through on this planet?
Of course I did.
Human beings have gone through way worse than what Jesus has ever gone. We used to like cut people open and pull their entrails out after we like dislocated all of their joints. And remember, we did this in Jesus' name, by the way. And so like I'm not impressed that Jesus had a bad weekend.
And again, you keep ignoring the fact that your Jesus didn't stay for the full sacrifice. He left before they pierced him in his side. He bounced before the sacrifice was complete.
I'm not really interested in that fact. Like,
but that's a part of the story. No.
I'm more interested
Because if you're gonna say that he went through everything human beings go through and that he is an example for humans, then you have to pay attention to the fact that he bounced before he could experience what humans would experience during that crucifixion.
So
he had the power to. He had the power to because he's a God. He made the decision when to take his own life. And he says that. Nobody ain't taking my life because I'm going to take it back. He didn't. You can't do that.
Not actually. I don't know.
That's exactly what he said. I lay down my life. That's exactly what he said. No man takes it from me. And so I can take it back.
I don't see the significance of that or what by part of Bible that comes from that.
It comes from your Bible.
Yeah, I don't know what part says that he killed himself.
He said he lays down his own life. No man takes his life so that he can take it back.
Well, lays down his own life is, I don't think
John
that
10:18.
means suicide. That means that he was
technically it is suicide
to the cross. Well, yes, he went willingly to the cross to his own death, but the
and he
Roman
decided when he would die before they pierced him in the side. He gave up the ghost. He left before they even pierced him in the side.
What do you mean he gave up the ghost? I'm not familiar with.
Left.
He was already dead before they could come and pierce him in the side. He left. He ascended. He said, "It is finished," and he left.
Well, that just means that he reached the end of his life. Doesn't mean that he died.
What killed him? What killed him?
He left.
What was the sacrifice then? What was the sacrifice?
People die from crucifixion.
What killed him?
The process of being crucified.
Being crucified means that he's hung on the cross and he's killed. He's stabbed, right? Just hanging there isn't being crucified.
People die from just the process. You don't need to be stabbed. But
I think like the fact that your God is that weak that he just died from, having nails in his hands, when both thieves on the cross outlasted him as humans. Your God had Jesus had a whole ass God in him. And what killed him was nails in his hands.
Okay.
And a crown on his head.
I'm like a punk.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, thinker, but I used to watch this show with Matt and Tracy.
Why are you telling me that?
And I don't remember they being as mean and.
I'm not them. Don't compare me to another person. I'm not Matt.
Well,
I'm not anybody else. I'm thinker. Don't compare me to anybody else.
You don't need to start mocking people.
I didn't mock you. Where did I mock you?
No one's mocking you. We're mocking Jesus, maybe.
Yeah, but I'm a Christian, so.
I don't. You want me to have some extra respect for you because you're a Christian? I think your beliefs are foolish.
Just the same respect.
No, stop. The fact that you won't even pay attention to what's in your book, I think it's foolish. The first thing that you said when you came on here and talking about everything that's going on in the world today, and you went from being an atheist because of Christian nationalism and you ran to Catholicism and saying that you couldn't have faith in human beings anymore. Like literally, for you to say something like that, it's like you're saying that it's atheists that is doing all of this harm that you see in the world today. It makes absolutely no sense for you to say that you see Christian nationalists doing all this harm in the name of the same Jesus that you ran to with Catholicism. I have no idea why you would make a decision like that. That makes no sense. And then you want to deny what's in the book. And then you want to get mad at me because I'm saying in your book, he left before they completed the sacrifice. If he is a God and he is supposed to be some human example for you, he can't be because you can't do what he did. You don't have the power that he had. You start from a deficit. That is facts. That is facts. That's not me mocking you.
Well, that's not the part that I took offense with. The part is when you start mocking him that why is he so weak and pathetic?
He is weak.
Oh,
He's a God.
I did that. Yeah.
Okay.
He is weak. He died from nails in his hand. That's what you're saying.
Thinker, I might be wrong, but I think it's perfectly acceptable to mock fictional entities. Like we don't owe them respect, no matter who believes in them. I do have one question though, if you don't mind me asking. You do believe that Jesus is God, right? You believe in the Trinity?
Yes.
So when God does stuff, we can say that Jesus is in agreement with it?
Yes.
Sure.
I
Hey,
mean,
in Numbers
they are
31,
different-
when
they
God
are-
told the Israelites to divide up the little virgin girls, the spoils of war, the children that were virgins as war brides, was that a good thing that Jesus did there?
I don't think that happened.
You don't believe
I-
Numbers 31?
No.
I can read it for you. I'm going to read it. I'll read it for you. It
I know
says
it-
when they
I
came
know
back
it
from
says it.
war.
I know it's in the Bible.
Uh-huh.
I just don't think that literally happened.
You don't think the story happened?
Yes.
Why?
Because I'm a Catholic, not a Jew.
I'm aware, but even Catholicism is based on the Hebrew scriptures, meaning if Jesus is the Messiah, as predicted in the Hebrew Bible, that means you have to look to the Hebrew Bible as your foundation for the history, right? So
No,
you
not
believe
history.
that Jesus is the Jewish Messiah, don't you?
Yes, but it doesn't mean that everything that the Bible said is historically accurate and literally.
How do you
in the physics.
How do you know
I
that
don't-
Numbers 31 didn't happen in history, but say Moses did? Do you think Moses is a real person?
I'm not sure.
How in the world could you possibly believe that Moses wasn't a real person, or like Adam and Eve weren't real, when literally the New Testament says so? They trace Jesus' lineage in Luke 3 all the way to Adam. Do you believe Adam and Eve are real?
Not in a personal sense, no.
Now, this
I
book
think
is
there was
basically
a-
useless to you then. You don't believe any of it. Did
Is
Jesus
that- I
die
think
metaphorically, or like is Jesus' account of death a metaphor, or was there a real guy named Jesus who died?
Yes, there was a real man named Jesus who died.
Why would we believe that?
There's good evidence for it.
Oh,
I think
okay.
it's a-
So if
Yes.
we only believe things there's
Yes,
evidence for, then, right?
yeah, of course, I'm a rational.
Okay,
skeptic
so
person still.
we would say then that there's no good reason to believe the Bible. We have no evidence that Jesus resurrected. We have no reason to believe that he had to die for anyone's sins. We have no evidence that that was the case.
Of course, we have no evidence that he raised from the dead. That's
You just said you don't believe in the Old Testament because there's no evidence.
okay, but that's not an article of faith that I have to follow.
I'm not asking about articles of faith. I'm talking about how you come to rational conclusions, right? You said you come to rational conclusions based on evidence, but now I'm
Yes.
poking a little bit on some of the lack of evidence for Christianity, and you're like, well, actually, we don't need evidence for that. So, do you need evidence or not?
For some things, I require evidence. Other things, I take
Which
on faith.
ones? Which ones?
Things that are fundamental for me to live a life.
What is it fundamental? Because if you're thinking that Jesus' words are fundamental, he told you to follow the law of Moses. In fact, he says in Matthew chapter 5 that if you don't follow the law of Moses and you teach others to not follow the law of Moses, that you'll be called least in the kingdom of heaven. So did Jesus say those words or no?
Yes, it is.
Oh, should you follow those laws?
Yes,
Do you follow those laws?
I do.
Okay, so then you would then approve of stoning a virgin. In fact, if she doesn't bleed on her wedding night, according to Deuteronomy 22.
No, of course not.
But the law of Moses said so.
Yes, but Jesus said, throw the first stone if you are without sin.
I agree. And as it turns out, there's plenty of people that can cast a stone that aren't sinning worthy of capital punishment. The point behind that passage, which by the way isn't original to the Gospel of John, was added in the 6th century. The point of that passage isn't that nobody should ever die. The point of the passage was Jesus was pointing out their hypocrisy, because he said, if you're going to stone this woman, you guys are going to be next, because you all have capital offenses on your rap sheet as well. Also, I have no reason to believe that this woman actually committed the crime, and that Jesus believes she committed the crime, because she was brought before Jesus without the other party there. You're supposed to bring both the man and the woman before trial so that they can be tried. The man wasn't there. If this story is actually original, which is not, Jesus probably just didn't believe what was happening. If he actually was telling people not to follow the law of Moses, it would be a direct contradiction of his own teaching. Do you think Jesus directly contradicted his own teaching?
Yes.
So Jesus gives you contradictory commands. What possible reason would he have for this?
He didn't give me contradictory commands or teachings.
He gives contradictory commands. He doesn't give you anything. He doesn't speak to you. In the Bible, Jesus gives contradictory commands. And then in Matthew 28, he tells his disciples, go make other disciples of the nations and command them concerning all the things I've commanded you, which would include all the stuff in the gospel. So how could they possibly do that if he's contradicting himself?
Jesus didn't teach contradictory things. God.
You just said he did.
Moses, if he's God, God ordered Moses contradictory things to the Jews.
Is Jesus God?
Then he did to the rest of the world.
Is Jesus God?
Because there's a contradiction between those two different teachings.
Is Jesus God?
Yes.
Okay, so that means that God commanded this. When God commanded, Jesus was in accordance with this, and Jesus was okay with stoning women on their wedding night for not bleeding. And believe you me, I understand that this was a popular thing in the ancient world. It's weird that God would condone this behavior, especially because I hope you know, that not all women bleed their first time. Do you know that?
Yes.
Sure. But so why would God command these innocent women to be stoned?
Yes, just to point out, there is no contradiction that you're hinting at. Just because in the past, God ordered different things to different people than he does to now everyone, that's not a contradiction.
It's a direct contradiction, Robert. He's talking to Jewish people in John. In the Gospel of John, chapter 8, where the story of the woman comes up, he's talking to Jews. In Matthew 5, when he tells them to follow the law of Moses, he's talking to Jews. He tells the Jewish people two contradictory things. One is don't stone the women. The other would be follow the laws of Moses. Those are contradictions. It's a direct contradiction to Jewish people.
No, because you can't ignore all his other teachings.
I'm not ignoring them. I've read them, which is why I'm telling you this is a contradictory teaching.
If you ignore all the rest of his teachings of forgiveness, of charity, of love for your neighbor, then there's a contradiction. But you can't just extract those two lines from the Bible.
That doesn't fix it.
Why not?
You can love your neighbor and still do the laws of Moses. That's why the love your neighbor commandment comes from Leviticus 19:18. That means the God who gave the laws think that these laws are compatible with loving your neighbor. So in Deuteronomy 22, when he said to stone the woman who is not bled on her wedding night, that is compatible with loving your neighbor. You can't say that loving your neighbor means that you can't follow the law of Moses.
But Jesus said that I give you a new law, a law of love.
Not the only law.
The most important law.
He didn't say that. He said, I'll give you a new law to love one another as I have loved you. And I agree. It is a new law. It's irrelevant. It doesn't supersede any of the previous laws.
Why do you say that it doesn't supersede them?
Because he loved other people by telling them to follow the law of Moses.
But that was at a different time for different people.
It wasn't at a different time. He didn't say do it for now. He didn't say do it for the next 5 years. He said to do it.
Yeah, then he said, stop doing it.
No, he didn't. Show me one passage where he said not to.
When he said not to follow the law.
Where did he say that?
How about...
I'll give you a hint. He doesn't say it anywhere.
How about when he breaks the law himself?
He doesn't.
When he,
I've never seen him break the law once.
What
when
what
he
is
killed
it that they think it means when he says love your neighbor as I have loved you?
They have
'Cause-
no idea.
Yeah, because all he did, he told them to follow the law. He said that the scribes and the Pharisees sit in Moses' seat. He says, do all that they tell you to do.
Hmm.
So to Jesus, loving them was restoring the Israelites, right? Following the mission of his father and showing them how to fulfill the law of Moses. That's what Jesus did.
yes, but fulfill it in a truer sense than before.
But not make it go away. He didn't say it's going away. He says you need to do it.
Yes, but that doesn't mean that you still have to stone people. Like that.
No, it does mean that. That's what the law of Moses requires.
I think it's interesting that Jesus called the Pharisees hypocrites for not stoning kids.
Yeah, in
Forgiving-
Matthew 15 and Mark 7.
Mhm.
Yeah, maybe Thinker maybe walk him through that passage. I bet he's never read it.
Yeah.
You really
and-
think that Jesus called the Pharisees hypocrites because they didn't stone kids?
Well, he called them hypocrites because they told him he was.
Why?
Well, he called them hypocrites because they asked him why he and his disciples were not washing their nasty hands before they ate. And
But why do you
Jesus,
think that was
hold on,
wrong?
let me finish speaking, please. And Jesus said, well, I'm going to do you one better. You're not following the law of Moses. God said to honor your father and mother, and whoever speaks evil of father and mother must die the death. And then he says to them, but you created your own tradition. You allow the children to cry Corbin, and then they don't need to honor their father, and you nullify the word of God. And he called them a hypocrite.
But
Because the
you are
Pharisees allowed the children to cry Corbin and offer a votive offering to your God instead of being stoned for disobeying.
being stoned is not part of that story.
It literally
That-
says they have
It
to
is.
die the
Sorry.
death. Yes, it
Can I-
is.
Can I just explain? So the problem there is not that the Pharisees were not stoning children. The problem that there is the Corban, the part that
What was supposed to happen instead of Corbin?
not doing it.
No.
Problem that
You are so dishonest. Verse 4 says,
I'm
God
sorry,
said,
you
stop, you are dishonest.
disagree.
Verse 4 said, God said, honor your father and mother, and whoever speaks evil of father or mother must surely die. That is the law in Deuteronomy that says to bring your son before the elders, your unruly son, and say that he is a drunkard and that he is lazy and dishonorable, and have him stoned. It
The
says
point of-
they must surely die. So instead of Corbin, they were to be stoned.
No.
Yes, they
The
were.
point- The point of that story is not that children should be stoned. That there is a Jewish tradition at that time of Corban that was immoral because it allowed people to not support their parents, not to honor them. in
What
their
were
old
they?
age.
The problem
And
is that they
instead
were
of
not supporting.
Can
Hold
I
on.
finish?
No, because you're being dishonest. What did Jesus mean when he says, whoever speaks evil of father or mother must surely die? What did he mean when he said those words, must surely die?
The point of that story is not
No, answer that. No, you are so dishonest. What did Jesus mean when he said, for God said, honor your father and mother, and whoever speaks evil of father and mother must surely die? What did he mean by those three words?
I don't think that's in the Bible.
You are so fucking dishonest.
I'll just put it on the screen. I don't think he actually owns the Bible, which that happens sometimes. Here's Matthew 15. It says, we can go down to the section. He says, you have a fine way of rejecting the commandment of God in order to keep your tradition. So right off the rip, he's chastising them, say, hey, you're rejecting the commandments of God for the oral tradition, and you shouldn't be doing that. And then he says, well, here's an example. For Moses said to honor your father and mother, and whoever speaks evil of father or mother must surely die. That comes directly from Deuteronomy 21 and Exodus 21. But you say that if anyone tells father or mother, whatever support you might have had from me as korban, that is an offering to God, then you no longer permit doing anything for father or mother, thus nullifying the word of God through your tradition. So the complaint is what Thinker told you. He's saying you're doing something that is contradicting the law of Moses. And here's an example of one of those instances that I don't like.
Thank you for reading that, because it points out that Thinker is not dishonest, because I don't accuse her of that, but wrong of his
but you are.
He's not.
Of this Bible. The problem that Jesus is telling there is not that people should be stoned to death, but that people is wrong to not support your family in old age.
And if you don't support your family, what's supposed to happen according to the law of Moses? No, because you want to skip past this, and I'm not going to let you. What's supposed to happen if you don't honor your mother and father financially according to the law of Moses? What did Jesus say is supposed to happen?
What Jesus said is supposed to happen, that the Pharisees should not allow people to proclaim Korban and not support their family.
You are so dishonest.
And just proclaim their
You are so dishonest. Why weren't they supposed to cry Korban? What was supposed to be happening to them?
To support their family in order.
What was supposed to be the punishment when they don't?
I don't know.
You are a liar.
You do know. He tells you in the passage they must surely die. Like, listen, the context of Matthew 15 and Mark chapter 7 is not even difficult. The question at hand in this chapter is whether or not the oral tradition should stand. The charge of not washing your hands is part of the oral tradition. It's part of the tradition of the elders, as it's called in Matthew and Mark. This is what we find in the Talmud. The Talmud was at one point in oral tradition. The question is, do we need to follow this oral tradition? And Jesus is saying, no. Not only that, but your oral tradition is nullifying the actual thing God told you to do. And that is a problem. When your man-made tradition nullifies the word that came from God, it is a problem. And then here's one example of when that happens, an example of when your tradition supersedes what God told you to do. It just happens to be that the example requires you to kill your son, which means based on the context of the passage and everything we know from the surrounding teachings on the law, Jesus is suggesting that you should be following the law of Moses, even killing the son that curses mother and father.
No, I don't see that's the understanding of this chapter. The clear context here is that you should not have the practice of Korban. You should not be allowed.
No, it's not.
Support your family.
This is not about Korban. This chapter, Jesus didn't come out here. Jesus didn't come out and say, "Hey, I got a problem with Korban." What he did is says, "I have a problem with the oral tradition." It's literally how the chapter is introduced.
Korban.
The beginning of the chapter is about the oral law, about the tradition of the elders. Korban is one of thousands of issues. It's just one issue. He doesn't just come by and say, "Oh, I have an issue with Korban." He says the issue is your tradition, right? It says your disciples break the tradition of the elders, for they do not wash their hands before they eat. This is what's in question. Why are you breaking the tradition of the elders? And he's breaking the tradition of the elders because he thinks it contradicts the law of Moses, and it does.
Yes, it does. And that's wrong.
That's exactly, yes, creating new laws that prevent you from following the law of Moses, the law that God gave, is wrong according to Jesus. And the example that he gave, which Thinker was right to point out, is that according to Exodus 21 and Deuteronomy 21, when your child curses mother and father, the punishment for that is taking before the elders and having them stoned. Jesus says that your oral tradition is making this law obsolete, and it's a problem.
Yeah, but the problem is not that people should be stoned to death. I don't know what the process of judgment of Jewish court would there be. The problem is that the Pharisees are being hypocrites for taking money from the people so they don't have to support their families.
I know.
They didn't take it so they don't have to. They were giving
Right.
them honestly, like if you think about it, your Jesus didn't have to die so that the punishment wouldn't be death for sin, because the Pharisees were already changing the law and giving a different option. He didn't have to die for there to be grace for you to not die for disobeying the law. And Jesus is telling the Pharisees here that they should be following the law, and the law says that the children should be dying the death. The parents, I don't, if they're adult children or whatever, they should be dying the death for not financially taking care of their families, for speaking evil against their parents. And the Pharisees had offered a different option other than death. That was the problem. They were not following the law of Moses.
But the option that they offered still left to not their elders not being supported and dying on the streets.
So do children deserve to die for not taking care of their parents?
No, that doesn't follow.
That was the law.
Do you think children that at time should support their family in all this?
If they can, but they don't, there's no obligation to. It depends. It depends on if you can afford it. Some children can't afford it. Some people got badass parents.
Should there be a loophole that you opt for? You promise your wealth to the church and
no,
don't have to?
No.
Of course, that's immoral.
No. No one can tell you what to do with your money. But children don't deserve to die for not financially taking care of their parents. And Jesus was advocating for the law of Moses, which said children should die for not financially taking care of their parents.
Right.
The Pharisees, regardless of what you think the Pharisees was doing with the money, because let's be real, the Levites were the ones benefiting from the tithes, from the offerings, from the gleaning and all of that stuff, from the sacrifices way before first century Rome. Whatever you think the Pharisees was doing with the votive offerings, it still created a alternative option for punishment in the law. That what you believe Jesus had to die for, that alternative existed. And when you think about it, we don't follow what Jesus wanted. We don't follow the law and kill our kids for not financially supporting us. We follow what the Pharisees were doing. We do something different with punishing our kids. We don't execute our kids anymore.
Well, we pay taxes and nursing homes, but there weren't any in the first century.
Oh boy, they had taxes, that's for sure, and they did have organizations that took care of the widows. But I think this kind of misses another point, which is even if you think that Jesus was okay of getting rid of the law, you still have this huge problem, which is that he tells you to follow the law, and that also for about 1,500 years he was okay with this happening, meaning he was in agreement with the Father that it's good to stone these children, it's good to stone women. He had to be in agreement with Yahweh. You're never going to be able to separate Jesus from the Old Testament. Never going to happen. If Jesus is God, then he's always in agreement with the horrific shit in the Old Testament, no matter how far you want to run from it. Which brings me maybe to the last point, which is I don't think the Trinity is logically coherent. I think it's the silliest doctrine ever invented. And I think anyone who believes in a Trinitarian deity just hasn't spent any time thinking about it, because it doesn't make any sense. If Jesus is God, how could Jesus lack the same qualities that the Father has?
First of all, I think it is a luxury for us in the 21st century to judge God or people before Christ, that capital punishment was used as a tool.
Is God timeless?
To build society.
Is God timeless? Listen, I'm not judging ancient people. I'm not doing presentism. I get it. People in the ancient world had different practices than I did, and I'm fine with that. God's timeless. He should know. If it wasn't good to kill children for cursing their parents, then he should have known that back then. He didn't have to get reformed later.
He didn't reform. We did. We evolved. We became better people.
No, we never ever needed to kill our children. It was never a requirement.
Yes, it was.
God literally could have just said, if your children curse their mother and father, then they don't get an inheritance. It could have been done at that. You don't have to kill them. That's ridiculous.
Of course you do.
No, you don't. Why? Give me one reason why you have to kill your parents. Now this is getting crazy in here.
if you're a nomadic tribal people who live and die because of the coming and going of the crops or failing of the harvest, and your mode of upholding society is limited. You don't have a police, you don't have cars, you don't have telephone. Capital punishment is a necessary part of upholding society.
Not for cursing your parents.
It doesn't literally mean cursing your parents is yelling at them.
No, I didn't say yelling. I said cursing. Cursing in the ancient world was uttering a curse to a deity, typically against somebody else. Like you could curse somebody's baby hoping that they would die, but these gods don't exist. Curses don't work.
Yeah, but
Their gods seem to be okay killing kids for curses. Like when the young men told Elisha to go up and die. Like he was okay giving his power to Elisha to send she-bears to kill those kids. He's okay with having children stoned to death for cursing their parents. We don't do that today. We don't follow any of your God's decisions when it comes to our children.
Yeah, but you do agree that in ancient history, there had to be different rules and laws to uphold.
I'm talking about your God.
Society.
I'm talking about your God.
Sorry?
Your God is all-knowing. That's the problem. And Jesus, again, was human and fully God. So he doesn't get to use the human limited knowledge.
Yes, because humans are limited, and we are.
But he wasn't. He was 100% God and 100%
we are
human.
talking about what law
We are talking about your God.
humans live by,
No, we are talking about your God
and the laws that he gives to humans.
and the laws that he created, that he should have known better. He should have known in first century Rome that we wouldn't follow his way when it came to our children. We don't stone our children. At least sane people don't.
But you don't.
Yeah, that's
think
crazy.
that the rules and laws in ancient times were necessarily different than today.
No, they didn't need to be. No.
You think that just because we don't have support capital punishment today, before it was necessarily to deter criminals?
No, it was never necessary. In ancient Assyria, if a slave was caught doing a certain number of crimes, they would cut off their nose and ears. Do you think that was necessary?
No.
Okay.
But
So just giving somebody a harsh punishment isn't necessary. You're only saying it's necessary because it's in your book. It's a ridiculous argument. But
I do. Think
that being said,
we-
I do have one question. If you think that some of these laws were necessary given the time period, do you think it was necessary for them to own slaves?
No, but I do think that it was necessary to punish murder
So
with capital punishment.
It wasn't necessary to own slaves, but God said you could do it?
Yes.
So that just nullified your prior argument. Why did God say that you can own slaves when it wasn't necessary?
Because if he had said that you cannot, then people would have not followed him.
They didn't follow him anyways. I don't know if you've read the Bible. They didn't listen to God no matter what laws he gave. That's an irrelevant point. He told them not to eat shrimp. I'm sure they did.
Yeah, but there were Jews still until Christ arrived still. So they followed him to a degree. I'm sure they were not perfect, but more or less
You're missing the point though. God didn't give laws based on which ones he thought you were going to obey.
Yes, I do think he would have. I think if God had said
Try this again. I'll make it a yes or no question.
This is,
do you think all the laws that God gave were laws that he thought they would obey?
always obey? No. But I
didn't say always.
Yeah.
Do you? Okay, so then you think when he said not to commit adultery, he was under the impression that people wouldn't be doing it?
Can I just explain?
I just need a yes or no.
No.
Was God under the impression when he said not to commit adultery that they wouldn't be committing adultery?
Can we just have a discussion without getting me in a gotcha?
It's not a gotcha. I need you to be honest. That's why I'm forcing you to answer my question rather than dance around it. Do you believe that God was under the impression that people would not be committing adultery because he commanded it?
Can you give me 30 seconds to explain?
I don't need an explanation. I need a yes or no. I don't even know what your position is yet. See, you're saying that God couldn't tell them not to own slaves because they wouldn't have obeyed it, which would mean that God only gives laws that they would obey. So I'm asking about adultery now. Was he under the impression that they would obey the adultery laws?
No.
Okay, so then your prior argument fails. God didn't give commands just because he thought these were the ones that they would follow. In fact, the entire Old Testament is basically like a farce of like God giving commands and them repeatedly not following them at every turn. So God could have just told them not to own slaves, couldn't he?
No.
Why couldn't he?
Because then everyone would stop being a Jew and abandon God.
That is not the case. And it also wouldn't matter.
You don't know.
What did he say?
I'm saying that if God had
He literally
Israelites,
He literally said if God told the Israelites not to own slaves, they would all leave God, which is a crazy thing to say that's not founded in scriptures. And it's also like seriously stupid because when they left Egypt, they didn't have any slaves.
Did he say everybody
could
would
have
stop
said
being
just-
a Jew?
Yeah, well, there weren't Jews back then, but what
Right.
I mean, that's but the point is like when they left Egypt, they didn't have any slaves. God could have said, hey, now we got you out here. You just left slavery. You know how much you didn't like it. You know how you don't have any at the moment. Let's just keep it that way. That's the way we should do it. And we know for a fact that he could have said not have slaves because he basically said it in Leviticus 25 about your own fellow Hebrew men. He says, if any who are dependent on you become so impoverished that they sell themselves to you, you shall not make them serve as slaves. They shall remain with you as hired or bound laborers. They shall serve you until the year of Jubilee. Then they and their children with them shall go out from your authority, and they shall go back to their own families and return to their ancestral property, for they are my servants or slaves, who I brought out of the land of Egypt, and they shall not be sold as slaves are sold, but you shall not rule over them with harshness, and you shall fear your God. As for the male and female slaves who you may have is from the nations around you. So he says, already in Leviticus, hey, don't I know you guys are used to owning slaves, but don't make slaves of your own Hebrews. Make slaves of these foreigners over here. So this is preposterous to say that God couldn't just go one step further and say, actually, treat everybody like a hired laborer. He could have said that, couldn't he?
Could have, but then everyone would have stopped being a Jew at some point.
Why? Why would you think that?
Because in ancient history, everyone owed slaves. It was part of.
No, they didn't. It was not.
Nope.
In fact, there was an emperor in China that got rid of slaves for quite a long period. It was Emperor Wing, I believe. Emperor Wing or Wang? Let me check.
What period?
They also
100
didn't
years?
They also didn't build their slave system based on discrimination of chosen status or ethnicity. Do you realize that? Do you realize that your God set the stage for supremacy ideology and supremacy culture? Yes, slavery existed in antiquity. There were many nations who practiced slavery, but their slavery wasn't based on ethnicity. It wasn't based on chosen status.
Yes, it was. Everyone preferred to take slaves from other people. The Romans did it. They enslaved the Gauls.
No, what I'm saying is it wasn't based on people from Babylon can't be enslaved and we're going to enslave people from Egypt for life. That came from your God. That is unique to ancient Israel.
The practice widely spread was to raid other people, take them as hostages.
That's not what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about people in Israel can't be slaves, but everybody else can be lifetime slaves, can be property, can be commodity and passed down. No other nation established their slave system that way in antiquity.
I'm pretty sure Romans did the same thing.
Do you realize that we are talking about one and the same? The Christians followed your God. They followed what was written in the Hebrew Bible.
Yeah, but
and then the Romans, prior to them becoming a Christian state, they had Augustus had a whole slave conglomerate. He had like 15 to 20 slave trades of all different ethnicities, and Europeans were. He enslaved a whole city one time. So it wasn't based on discrimination. But when they became Christian, when they became Christian, Europeans went throughout, and European Christians could not enslave other European Christians, but all non-Christians became property of European Christians. And they took Leviticus 25, they took Exodus 21, they took Ephesians 6, 1 Corinthians, and they applied it to the transatlantic slave trade. They didn't use the Code of Hammurabi. They didn't use Egypt's legal code, the Hittite code. They used your Bible. And they didn't have to twist it.
Which one is it? Does it come from Christianity or does it come from the Romans? Because the Romans had the same practice.
It comes from Christianity. It comes from your Bible.
That they didn't take slaves from themselves, the Romans, they take slaves from other people they conquered.
I'm not talking about taking slaves from other people. I'm talking about the discrimination in their slaves system.
Same discrimination.
It's not the same difference. It's not saying we can't be slaves because we're chosen, but y'all are slaves because you're less than us. That's what your God established.
Because we are Roman, that's the same thing.
No, that's not what the Romans did. That's what the Christians did in Rome when Rome became a Christian state. That's what the Christians did in Rome. Like, you don't like this Jesus. You deny damn near everything in this book. I don't think you like this God. You keep trying to rewrite this God's story and his history.
Did Romans enslave other Romans?
Yes.
As permanent slaves?
They didn't have permanent slavery.
They did.
No, they didn't.
They did, and they had.
They didn't have permanent slavery without a chance of getting your freedom. That's not true.
And they didn't, and they had different rules and different laws for Romans to be.
Yes, they did. They had different laws, and they did for free Romans. They did, but they did not have lifetime. They didn't have lifetime chattel slavery until they became a Christian state.
They didn't have.
That's true. My understanding in ancient Rome is that lifetime slavery was for non-Romans.
Yes, that's the same law.
So if you're a Roman, as Thinker said, like you would have a period or a buyout. Like it wasn't permanent.
But that's the same rules as the Jews.
It wasn't.
That's the difference.
The Jews, no, he's saying that the foreigners to be lifetime slaves.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Same.
He's saying that's the same thing as the Jews.
Yes.
I mean, whether it is or isn't kind of irrelevant. The fact remains that God didn't have to let them do slavery. There was nothing about their culture that made slavery a necessity. And listen, if they wouldn't obey the slavery law, who gives a damn? They didn't obey the other laws anyways.
Well, it's relevant because Thinker claimed that the slavery comes from the Jewish law, but clearly...
I said the discrimination and supremacy ideology is in your God's law. That's what I said. And when European Christians went into other lands, in the name of your Jesus, your Catholic Church, and the Dum Diversas went into other lands and said that your Jesus gave them authority to downgrade the status of West Africans to savages and enslave them because they are Europeans were the chosen. That's what they did. And they followed Leviticus 25.
Yeah,
they followed Leviticus. Horrible. They justified it with Leviticus 25, verses 39 through 44, when they enslaved West Africans and would not allow them to become Christian because they were scared that they were going to lose their labor because Christians couldn't enslave Christians.
Yes, and that was a disgusting and horrible practice that
your God could have stopped, which is Justin's point. Your God could have said, even if as Yahweh, he did this, as Jesus, he could have said, okay, I fucked up. I messed up. Don't enslave another human. He did not do that.
I think,
and the thing your God said, your God cared more about you worshiping him, right? You giving him all the credit, all the love, that he said, don't put another God before me. Love me, right? He even put a punishment of execution for idolatry, and he killed a lot of people for idolatry. Although he knew that the Israelites continued to worship other gods, even though he said it in the law 3 different damn times, don't worship any other gods. But they kept doing it. And then so did other people. So he could have said, do not own other humans.
No, because you're confusing that they never broke the law, but they still try to follow the law. If
They never broke what law?
laws that like don't worship idols.
That's a lie. Yes, they did. They did worship other gods.
It's the first thing they did.
Yes, I know, but they broke the law, but they still uphold it into the future. If he had said,
Who?
not own.
Okay, so you keep double talking, right? You're saying that they didn't follow these laws, although sometimes they did. We agree. So that means our point still stands. There's no good reason for God to not just say, don't own slaves, treat them all like hired laborers.
I think Jesus does say that.
Jesus didn't say that. Nowhere, not once.
I know the argument. Jesus never said, free the slaves and let them go free. But he basically said that treat your masters, treat your slaves as your Christian brothers. And
Paul said that. And he didn't say it like that, actually. He said this is Ephesians chapter 6, verse 9 that you're referring to. He just tells slave owners to treat their slaves well. That's it. He doesn't say free your slaves, doesn't say release your slaves. He tells them to treat them well. If he wanted you to free slaves, he could have just said free your slaves.
It's a bit more than treat them well. He said treat them as your fellow Christians, right? Something like that.
Yeah, while still being slaves.
Yes, but I don't think that you can.
So he could have said free them. He didn't say free them. That's the point that we're making here. Listen, I don't think you should be able to own slaves even if you treat them well. Do you think we should be able to own slaves if you treat them well?
No, and I think that's what he said.
Okay, so then that's the problem. Is he says you can own slaves even if you're treating them well, you can still own the slaves. There's no you don't have to get rid of the slaves. And I don't know if you know this, slavery in the ancient world is worse than just being compelled to work. You could beat them within an inch of their life, according to Exodus 21, and you can sell your daughter as a sex slave, as a concubine. Do you think he had to do that? Somebody tied his arms behind his back and made it so that he had to allow them to own sex slaves?
No, I think that if you understand Paul correctly, you cannot.
I'm not talking about Paul. Try to focus. Do you think that God had to allow them to sell their daughters as sex slaves?
Hebrews?
Yes or no? Did God have to allow them to do this?
Are you talking about Hebrews now?
We've been talking about the Hebrew Bible the entire time.
Well,
we're talking about slavery, and I'm telling you that one form of slavery that is allowed, specifically in Exodus 21, is to sell your daughter, your little girl, as a sex slave, as a concubine. Did he have to do that?
I don't know.
Oh, now we don't know. No, of course he didn't have to do that. It's preposterous.
Which part is that about the concubine? Because that's kind of contradicted about the laws of...
It's not. It's Exodus 21, verse 7 through 10. When a man sells his daughter as a slave, she shall not go out as the male slaves do. If she does not please her master, who has betrothed her to himself, then he shall let her be redeemed. He shall not have right to sell her to a foreign people, since he has dealt unfairly with her. You're allowed to buy little girls as concubines.
So foreign girls, you're allowed to buy as concubines.
Foreign and Hebrew. In Exodus 21, it's talking about Hebrew girls. You can buy little Hebrew girls as concubines.
Yeah, it's messed up.
Yeah, it is messed up. It's some Epstein shit, man.
Yeah, I don't know what's that about.
Fair enough. Well, listen, we finally got a point in agreement, and there's no better time to wrap up a phone call when we actually agree on something. Thinker, you have anything else you wanted to go over?
No, I don't know if he's been an atheist, if he's only been a Catholic for a year. He sounds too I don't know. He just gaslights too well to be a fresh Catholic. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Well, I have
Hey,
experience as an atheist. I heard a lot of arguments that you guys used before. I used some of them. I heard it again and again. Sorry if we got disagreed and harsh.
It's okay. We actually don't mind. We're pretty used to it. I would say this. I would like you to come back sometime so we could talk about the Trinity. I think the Trinity is the craziest thing, and I can't find Christians that will discuss it with me, but I know Catholics will. So read up on some Trinity stuff and come back and talk to us, okay?
Sure. Thank you.
All right, cheers, buddy. Best of luck to you.
Bye.
Have a good one.
Well, I drug that one out because I thought it was an interesting phone call. Am I wrong?
No, yeah, it was a really interesting phone call. From the beginning when he said, I was an atheist, I lost hope in humanity, so I went to Catholicism. I saw the nationalism, so I ran to Catholicism. What the fuck did you just say? That doesn't make sense. But yeah, that was an interesting call. Yeah.
Well, friends, we've got some super chats. We're going to read through the super chats. Thank you so much to everyone who supported the stream via super chats. We really love and appreciate it. And I'll make an announcement again for those who came in late because our numbers kept climbing during that call. Hey, Thinker is now a full-time host on the Atheist Experience. Please welcome her to the crew. I am thrilled. I'm ecstatic to have her on. As someone who's been following her work for 3 years now and actually got to do some work with her on TikTok, I'm thrilled to have her here. So there's a lot of Thinker cooking that's waiting to happen. So big W there. I'm going to open up the super chats page and let's just alternate going through there. I see the first one is from our friend Rock Hard for Doug. Hey, great to see you. Hope you're doing well, buddy. Thank you for being a member for 6 months on AXP and for the $10 super chat. Says, whatever happened to caring about what's actually true or real? I went to a rock concert and converted to Doug. Justin's fucking rock. Hey, Doug. That's what I'm talking about.
All right. The second one is from Tracy807. Says, Thinker, ma'am, I'm going to need you to stop looking 25 and being a grandmother. Thank you.
It's a million% accurate. It ain't fair. It ain't fair. Amir, thank you for the... I'm sorry, we're going to say...
No, I was going to say, the first thing I said, y'all see the gray hair, though. But thank you. I appreciate you. Go ahead.
Sometimes the universe gives with both hands. Amir, thank you for the super chat and for being a member for 2 months. Thinker, Justin, y'all make an undefeatable atheist team. I pity the fool who dares, but yeah, come on up, silly believers. Run your stories.
Thank you, Amir. Amir, again, with the $5 super chat. Thinker, your panels are full of cool and smart people. I hate that I've been missing it a lot lately. My morning routines change. I try to catch up. I thought I saw you Thursday, Amir, in the TikTok queue. But yeah, we miss you too. Thank you.
Absolutely. And Real 8342 says, Thinker stated that she checked the Egyptian records. Did she look into the Semitic people that lived in the land of Goshen? Good question. What do you think?
Yeah. I know they think that those are the Habiru. Yeah.
Yeah, they think the Hyksos and the Habiru are the same people.
Yeah. Yeah, I have.
Yeah. There have been lots of debate on who the Habiru are, friends, and there's no good reason to think that they are Hebrews. There's not even that much of a linguistic connection. It just sounds the same to non-Semitic speakers. But I would say this, the Habirus existed far before the Hebrews. In fact, we've got documentation of these people for a while. They just appear to be nomadic people. It might be one of those cases where sometimes Hebrews were considered to be Habiru because Habiru is like just a category of nomadic people.
Yeah.
But being a Habiru doesn't necessarily mean that you were Hebrew. In fact, Hebrew typically comes from the ancestor Ever. You'll find them in it wouldn't have sounded the same in ancient Hebrew. That's why even when you're learning Hebrew, the Hebrew is called Evrit. It's not pronounced the same as it is in English. Yeah. Roger, thank you for the $20 super chat, my friend. Says Justin and Thinker are a perfect combination for AXP. Thank you both. And I couldn't agree more.
Honor. Thank you. Satan was framed. I still love that damn name. Thank you so much for the $9.99 super chat. Thank you for being a member for 2 months. Hey, Thinker and Justin, I need you guys to get Fee on the show. I agree. She would be a great addition. I agree, 100%.
100% from both of us here. Skip this one if you're... No, I'm not going to skip this one. Evan, my friend, thank you for the super chat. Says, W Thinker, welcome to the Jezebel Experience, all.
They better get ready for that. Crispin Slint, thank you for being a member for 6 months. Says, do not read this.
Sorry.
That's all it said.
Too late. Atheist Black Woman, thank you for the $2 super chat. Said, deconstruction is required for authenticity. Yeah, for sure.
I am Jarian. Thank you for the $20 super chat. Kiss, kiss, kiss. Thank you, Jarian.
And K-Dub, thank you for the $10 super chat and for being a member for 2 years. That's huge. 2 years is great. Went to a memorial service in a Southern Baptist church like where I grew up. Now, as an atheist, I held my lesbian partner's hand. It felt like I gave the Baptist a big fuck you, and it felt good, and it should.
Yeah, I love that.
That's what's up.
Gretchen Z Boots, thank you for the $3.11 super chat. That's a very specific number. It seems that all the Roberts are broken today. I agree.
And Evan Rock, good to see you again. It says, baby Jesus just flexed during his circumcision. Oh boy.
Reverend Nate. Oh, thank you for the $5 super chat. Why is the suffering of Jesus special? Many POWs have survived vastly worse and survived with zero magical powers. True.
Game Guy, thank you for the super chat. Says, I don't believe that Robert number 2 was ever an atheist, and I agree.
See, I told you. I know it.
Never a real atheist. He didn't believe it in his heart.
Chris Wyndham, thank you for the $10 super chat. Jesus read an article. Oh, hold on. Just read an article on John Loftus' site about how Christianity helped fuel Hitler's Germany. The horrors of the Christian sword knows no bounds. Hell dug the rock of the true morality.
Indeed. May the courts be with you. And last super chat from our friend Genji. Good to see you. Says Robert claimed that he lost faith in humanity, and that's why he became a Catholic. He was part of the humanity that sucks ass. And imagine losing faith in humanity, so turning to a God that thought it was okay to murder babies, rape women, and stone children. What a weird solution to that problem. I'm baffled.
Yep, I agree. I'm glad I was not alone in that thought, Robert. I mean, Gingy. Juju P. Oh my gosh. Yeah, okay. One thing y'all gonna have to get used to with me, I may say some shit wrong. The names. I have name blindness, but I almost said something right there that probably should not say.
It's after dark now, don't worry.
Okay. Juju Penguins with the $4.99 super chat. That dude clearly did not know about Opus Dei or our favorite Christian nationalist, J.D. Vance, who are also Catholics. True.
Good point. Yeah. And our word, thank you for the 666. Hell Nero says, thanks for the email, Justin. Thinker, you're awesome. Great team. And I did find your email, so I responded. Hopefully we can make things work out. And Thinker is awesome.
Thank you. Back at you.
I think that might be the last of the super chats. I didn't see one roll in as we were reading that, so I'm sure that's the last of them. But I do want to thank our backup tonight, Jamie, our friend, has been sitting this whole long. We had a long call tonight, and Jamie's been back here enjoying the whole thing. What are your thoughts on the show, buddy?
I do not like your arguments, Robert. If I had a nickel joke inserted here, but for very different reasons. Robert 1 was very frustrating because it was difficult to pin down what he was actually trying to say. I could try and make a guess at it. I wouldn't mind having a conversation with him myself. Maybe he'd do better on Talk Heathen, where we can maybe take a little bit more time and let him get it off his chest a little bit more. I don't know, but I am also one of those slightly more bleeding heart people. I haven't had all the cynicism beaten into me as thoroughly as some people have. So I do give more of the benefit of the doubt to my eternal detriment. And I felt sad for Robert too. Firstly, because, not to commit a no true Scotsman fallacy, I don't think many actual Catholics would call him a Catholic, because, like you said, he doesn't seem to like a lot of the book that his beliefs are supposed to come from. And it just feels like, even if I gave him the benefit of the doubt that he believed at least he was an atheist, he grew up in an Eastern European country that also survived communism, so there's a lot of retreat to superstition and faith in societies like that. And it's the story that I always hear. I was at my lowest ebb. I was out of hope. I was horribly lost. And then I found Jesus. And I'm like, some people would like to see that as a lionizing of Christianity and Catholicism, that they're picking these broken people up and helping them mend. I don't see it that way. I see it as they specifically target people who are hopeless because they're vulnerable, and they'll basically look for any kind of thread of hope. You never hear someone who's well-adjusted and go, I just felt like converting to Catholicism today. It was a lovely day outside, just had a lovely cup of coffee, feeling so good, went down to my local church and pledged myself to Jesus. That story doesn't happen very often as far as I'm aware. But I feel like I'm standing between giants, between you two guys. You guys have forgotten more about the Bible than I will ever know.
We appreciate that, buddy. Well, Jamie, thank you so much for hanging out late with us. And to the audience, thank you so much for doing a late session with us. I had Thinker on, and it was just one of the things. You remember when you were a kid and your mom calls you in and you're like, I don't want to come in. I'm busy outside playing. It was one of those situations.
Sorry, buddy.
Every time Greg went in there and said, we got another call. Are we good to go? I'm good to go.
let's make it happen.
I can't feel my arse. These chairs are comfortable to a point.
Understood. Well, thank you, friends, so much for being here. We'll be same place, same time, 5:30 Eastern Standard Time, 4:30 Central Time on Sunday. And who's hosting next week? We've got...
I believe that may be Godless Engineer and the Cross Examiner, unless I'm wrong. And I could be wrong.
That'd be great. All right, friends, that's the end of the show. Thank you so much for being here. Stay godless, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.
What will it take for you to start opening your eyes, to start questioning the bullshit everyone around you buys? You think it's any of your business what goes on between my thighs? I wonder when we'll be rid of your life.
Watch Talk Heathen live Sundays at 1 p.m. Central. Visit tiny.cc/YTTH and call into the show at 512-991-9242 or connect to the show online at tiny.cc/callth.